Hello and welcome to Baited Expectations. I'm piebypie. I have with me Velyna, KittenCatNoodle, and Brittleknee. This episode we're going over harvest crafting and the manifesto that just came out, and we've invited GhazzyTV to join us in this discussion. Welcome, Ghazzy.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone. The recent manifesto sparked some polarizing opinions and discussions within the Path of Exile community, so we're very keen to unpack those different topics. We'll also be speculating a little on the teaser from the Ultimatum League. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, or follow along if you're enjoying the podcast. That way you won't miss the next one. First, let's get to know Ghazzy. Could you tell us a little bit about your history of Path of Exile, like how long you've been playing, what kinds of builds and content do you like, and what have you been up to lately in the game or outside of the game?
That's a lot to cover.
You
I have
can
played.
just go through whatever feels natural.
I've played around 26,000 hours of Path of Exile. So I'd still be considered a casual, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
totally. I started off with mostly summoner builds. I only played summoners for 2 years actually. But then I got kind of bored with only playing the same thing over and over again. So after that, I've been mixing in with playing pretty much anything. I'm not very keen on bow builds and melee builds, but pretty much most spell builds and minion builds is what I like playing. And been focusing a lot lately on crafting and making guides for the newer player base in Path of Exile. And lately, I've been actually playing some Escape from Tarkov, weaving that into my regular schedule. That's been pretty fun to do as well. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much a TLDR of me and my history in PoE.
Are you addicted to Tarkov?
Yes.
Yeah. I heard it's very addicting.
Yeah.
Did you start playing during beta, before, after, like around then?
I came in just before all of its theory. It must have been. A friend of mine told me summoners were really good in Path of Exile. It felt better than Diablo, but I was very upset with him because I had already gotten addicted to PoE, and summoners were not good in Path of Exile.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
That's funny.
I took it upon myself to make them good. So Vol Zero came around, and I believe I was the first one to actually down the Uber Theory as a summoner player, and I did service runs with it. And really shortly after, we got SRS involved as well when that came out to be more of a popular build to play. So that kind of kickstarted my whole streaming career, if you will, when that happened. Yeah.
All right,
now they're good.
Let's catch up with everyone else. Thanks for introducing yourself. You are new to our audience, theoretically. All right, Brittany, what have you been up to lately? What have you been playing? I know you've got Bingo League coming up. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, things have been super, super busy. I haven't had much opportunity to play as I would want to like the last few weeks, but I finished up 36 challenges because the hideout's sweet. Wanted to do that. I played a little bit in Forever Exiled's private league that they have. It's like a little hardcore fun. I like to try and play hardcore from time to time. And then just this morning, we did a showcase for a community ran hideout competition, which had a lot of really cool hideouts. And then, Bingo League tomorrow, and then 2 upcoming race events. And then the TLDR on Bingo is it's a private league that we do once a main parent league, and it is a set of challenges that you have to do 5 challenges in a row, column, or diagonal to possibly win a bingo prize. And we're also introducing bounties for the first time too. So extra bingo objectives can be completed for extra rewards.
That's pretty cool.
We're closing on 350 people, so feel free to continue to sign up if you'd like to participate. We have slots, and we'll continue to crowdfund slots as necessary.
I'm so excited.
I haven't seen. Did you show the card yet?
It comes out tonight at 10. So you get 12 hours to prepare.
Could you give us a little spoiler, a little tease of what's on the card?
It is the hardest bingo to date because I have to balance around new Atlas passives, so things are a lot more obtainable than before.
Yeah.
And I don't know until the card goes to everyone else, whether or not I have swung too far or if it's gonna hit just right. And I'm terrified. Because like
Oh.
I don't want to like have leaks, so it's just a very small set of people, like myself and like one or two other people, depending on like if intro is busy or something like that. Will take like a glance at the card to help me balance these, and right now it's just me and my mod looking at it, so I don't know. We'll see. I
I
think
believe.
and with the bounty prizes too, I think that'll help soften the blow. Maybe the bingo's too hard, but people can go for other things too. At the end of the day, it's just a place to kick off and have fun, and even practice league starts if you wanna.
Yeah.
I feel like
It was the
everybody's
hardest bingo.
Yep.
Is there any mods available, or is this the fresh hardcore oriented Soul Fan League?
It's softcore train, but they're like I don't want to give an example from this card, but in previous cards, it's been, like stuff that's balanced between in-game progression and then grinding so that things have like time investments. So it's like kind of different categories of challenges. Ones are ones that require in-game knowledge. Others are like spend your time challenges, like get 3 lab uniques or something like that. And then the other ones are like meme factor. So like Kill Kitava as CIEB. Like there's little there's like 3 different challenges, and all of those are all kind of like scrambled up on the board, and hopefully I've balanced it correctly because some are going to be harder than others, and then some will appeal to different players more so than others, because some people that are really like bossing oriented, that are like First to Shaper, Elder, Uber Elder, Awaken 8, like they'll be able to find a column that's like great, cool, I can just put my head down and do all my bosses and get a bingo. But then someone who might be a little bit more casual or newer to Path of Exile, there might be some that are like collect these certain things, and that can teach them more about the game as they encounter bingo for the first time. So they can be like, oh, okay, and I have to look up a little bit more about Delve, or maybe I need to understand like Betrayal a little bit better, and through this challenge I can do that. So
That's pretty cool.
I'm a big fan of Bingo League. I just never get around to participating because I'm usually burnt out by that point.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm with you in that boat as well.
But there'll be a Bingo League that I get involved in. I'm sure there'll be a league. I'm not burnt out. All right, Noodle, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I had kind of a bit of a break from the game due to some real life stuff and work, which was fun. But I also got 36 challenges because I just wanted that hideout. And I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten 36 in a while, not because I haven't tried, but I felt like the challenges were a bit easier to get. Maybe it's just because so many of them were related to Maven stuff that I was generally doing anyway, like the socketing watchstones and all of that. So got 36. And then I was gonna kind of wind down for the league, but I got a woke GMP gem to drop. And so that's many exalts. I was like, I guess I better start a new build. So I'm actually following Velyna's build guide for an Ice Crash Holopalm Raider. And that's fun. I don't usually play melee. I'm very much like a spell zoomy kind of player, but it does have a lot of dodge, which is in my wheelhouse. And I do like smacking things. There's a certain satisfaction to just open palm smacking the ground and watching everything die. So I've been enjoying that. Also working on a video about the researchers and the administrator Quotra behind the replica items, because I think that's an interesting thing that was introduced in Heist and sort of seemed like a one-off, but then they decided to add the 3 belts related to the main researchers, Arn, Gravin, and Alessia, in this league, which makes me think that it's going to have some implications beyond like just the flavor text that they've added before. And then obviously after seeing the teaser, which I know we'll talk about later, I'm very excited, and my mind has been absolutely buzzing with what that could imply, because as you know, as you've probably guessed at least, I have thoughts, I have opinions, I have tinfoil hats, and I'm I'm very ready to learn more.
I was gonna mention the tinfoil hats, but you got that before me.
It's funny that you mentioned the woke GMP being a lot of color exaltants, because the middle of the league they had this patch that came in to fix flicker shades, the specters, and we were expecting them to be better than the crabs, primal crush claw specters. So I woke up in the middle of the night just to test them out, and apparently they fixed syndicate operatives again. And then we made a video showing that woke GMP is the best support gem for it, and I think it took less than an hour. It went from 6x to 25 plus.
Oh yes, well thank you for the 28x that I made the other day on like Monday or whatever.
It was crazy.
I was like, oh, that's cool. It doesn't really work with my build, and people were like, sell it. Jesus Christ. Don't put it in your stash. Please sell it.
You wanted to put it in your stash, didn't you?
Well, I didn't have any other build ideas, and then people were kind of being, what about this? What about this? Someone mentioned Holopalm, and I was like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to do that for a while. Okay, I'll try it. And it was such fast leveling that I can't even complain that I had to level another character.
It's so satisfying to go back through the story and punch everything to death after doing it so many times. It's stress relief, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, this took me an hour last time, and boom. No. Keep going.
None for you. Val, what have you been up to lately?
Dying miserably in the gauntlet, making PBs, but not really making PBs, but sort of like, okay, I just need your guys' advice. Is it a PB if, like, technically the gauntlet was easier because it had less resist or minus resist? And I got to level 75 and I killed a conqueror. And I never killed a conqueror in the last gauntlet, but I did die in this one. And in the last one, I got to 80 and didn't die. I died 10 times, by the way. 7 of which were in the story, 3 of which were in maps, 1 to a martyr, 1 to a ritual, 1 to my own stupid donkey brain, and that's about it. And leveling a VD character to delve with.
Sounds
Yeah.
like
I'm kind of
completely summed up.
I'm kind of addicted to it though. Like I just have to beat the PB now. Like I literally played to the last minutes to try to beat the PB, and then I died to Groose, and I was like, "That's it," you know. I gave up at that point. It was like, yeah, but oh man, there's something really. It feels like old Poe. Like I remember being really scared of Brutus because he hurt a lot, or like Dominus when you didn't have resist to fight him.
I died to Brutus.
Right. Oh, I died to Brutus on one of those attempts too. Don't worry. Oh, I died. So I died. I was like, okay, I'll start again. And then I put on my 2 life springs and I put on my 1,000 ribbons. And then I went and I looked at chat and then I died to the fucking Uzbek.
Oh no.
Goodbye, life springs. Goodbye, 1,000 ribbons. Just yeet it out of there. So yeah. I've been up to that. It's been pretty good. And now I'm trying my first ever VD spell slinger, and it's completely unethical, and I love it actually. And the green balls are dope. They have this green ball MTX. Very cool.
Oh, that's true. They did put a verdant one out, or whatever it is. Yeah, the green. Yep.
It's less like particle effect. It's really hard to match though. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
that's
there's
the
a
one
whole
thing with-
thing
yeah.
about green in this game is like nothing is the same shade of
15
green.
different greens and none of them match.
But
I
like,
think Chris,
wasn't there
Chris
a
said
whole
something
thing?
about
Green doesn't sell? That was the thing? And I was like,
Yeah,
maybe it's because
exactly.
you don't fucking match it to anything.
Yeah, give us like 2 or
Right?
3 greens that actually are the same green so we can make a cool looking character.
I mean, the best thing we have right now is like some of the Ghost Flame things, but that's more like turquoise, and you have the Ghost Flame SRS, and you have the Ghost Flame weapon effect, and there's a couple of stuff like the Imp Aura effect works very well for that color theme. But as soon as you get into like too much bluish, then you get to the Mystic color theme, and that doesn't match at all.
Yeah.
The
That's what I'm saying.
Darkwood
It's like 15
set.
shades of green and 7 shades of turquoise.
Yeah.
The Darkwood set has green MTX and auras and a couple of like skill effects.
It's my
and they
favorite
do
of the greens.
they do tend to match each other, but I cannot for the life of me figure out why they called it Darkwood and not Greenwood, so that everyone would know that it was green and not dark.
What color is dark?
I don't know.
Well, it's the leather, right? There's like
Oh man.
It's mahogany, thank
It's mahogany.
you. No, I think it's just the bow. Like the weapon skin for that is all like wooden weapons and stuff. So I think that's what they were going for.
Oh yeah, it is kind of like a
Yeah.
wood. It does look
Yeah.
like a tree.
But
in a
it's
good way.
green
I'm not
and
like,
wood. It's not dark and wood.
well, it is
I feel
dark
like-
wood, but it's more green.
Yes, it's very much a
Isn't
green
it,
set.
like, browns and greens.
They like wear a green
Dark
entire
brown.
thing that's like a big green jacket with sleeves, but then you have like a nice little like furry belt thing and a furry like little keepy thing that sits
It
right
looks-
at the top. It's very, very pretty.
I really, really like it. I tried to wear the Abyss set, and then it turns out that Bone Offering turns you blue or something. And that sucks. So, that kind of ruined it. But I put on the Fairgraves set, and it kind of slightly works because of the turquoise, and I'm just calling it at that.
I'm surprised they haven't themed a lot of their MTX colors around the apparitions from their supporter packs. Because like they're big,
Mm.
right? And they're like
Yeah.
big themes that people can base their entire looks around. And they're so
Oh.
limited, except the super dark black ones or the white ones, like the Airy is really
Yeah.
nice. You can fit a lot of the paler colors to it, and it will still fit because it's white.
Mm.
But
I gotta say, we're so fashionable, guys.
yeah.
I can't even use the apparitions because half the time they make me crap my pants because I think it's something that's happening in the game.
I had to turn it off because I
No.
screamed once because it popped out while I was doing something and I didn't know it was coming.
I got the Cobra guy right when that released, and then the little Cobra guy popped out of the back of him, and I wasn't even fighting El Hizmine. I wasn't even like in a map, but I just like had like PTSD or something from like dying to all of his chaos damage, and every single time I saw that snake, I'd freak out a little bit. So no more apparitions for me.
I like them in theory, but then I never use them. Oh, look! Grace with the presence of cat. Yeah. It's all right. She's gone now.
Yeah, I looked and was like
There. This is it.
looking around my.
This bit here. Okay. Thanks for the catch up. Ghazzy, what have you been up to? I don't know if you actually got to talk about it. I know you played Gauntlet though, right? How did your Gauntlet go?
I did, yeah. I got a nasty 40 degrees fever on the day of a release.
Dear
Ugh.
God.
And luckily I'm very hot normally in temperature, that is. So I'm
Hot
very
werewolf.
capable of handling this. I don't really get really ill from having a high fever, but the energy, and I look like a zombie, but I'm actually able to still do shit. So I'm not bedridden at 40 degrees, which is crazy because it should put me in the hospital with my age now.
Mhm.
But no, so my energy was completely depleted at the end of the day. I only streamed for a few hours, and but the only thing going through my mind was like, shit, this is Corona. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, right.
So the day after I was gonna get a test, but I started feeling a bit better, and all the energy was gone. So I was like, I can't be arsed. I'm just gonna stay home and see if I feel better at the evening. And it was about the same the day after. The third day I felt a bit better, so I never actually did the test. Shit. But no, so I missed out 3 days on Gauntlet release, which kind of put a really bad taste in my mouth for it. I did muster up to keep doing it a couple of days with a lot of deaths, most of stupidity, as per usual with a race like that or an event like that. But it was fun. Decided to do some weird shit eventually, and had a little bit of friendly competition with a friend of mine. We were going to race the first level 50 for a GPU, and needless to say, I dropped the tabula and I went animate weapon and totally dominated his ass. So that was fun. And then I died with it. So
Oh no.
So wait, who
The
won? Did he
twist.
win?
no, I won it. But
What kind of GPU?
a GPU that is called a graphics card in Escape from Tarkov because we're so addicted. He still owes me that one. He hasn't given it to me yet. But yeah, like after I died with the tab, I was like, "Fuck it, I'm done. I can't be arsed anymore. I lost everything. I did level one more character that died to Brutus with the rest of my leveling gear, and after that point, I was like, I am so done with this now.
Yeah.
But no, that's basically what I've been up to lately. That and well, obviously the newly found addiction to Escape from Tarkov. But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Cool. Well, I'll just quickly
What
say,
about you, Pi?
yeah, me. I'm here too. I have not been playing PoE. I did do a little bit of offline play, but what I've been really working on lately is my UX design course. So I'm currently studying part-time to learn how to do user experience design and user interface. And my personal project that I brought to this was, I think that the map tab needs to be redesigned. Personally don't think that the map tab is fit for purpose ever since 3.13. No, 3.9, my bad. When we got Conquerors of the Atlas.
Ooh.
It makes more sense. So I've been working on that, and I've been working on I did all this user research. I talked to my chat and talked to a couple of players, streamer players that I know. I didn't want to, the whole thing is like you don't interview like 50 people because then you can get way too many stories. So I kind of just tried to keep it like, the recommendations like 6 to 10. And even with just talking to chat, I already had like far too many opinions. Although there are a lot of like themes. So you talk to them, you get the themes of, different people's perspectives, and then you start grouping them together and making like flow charts from that. And I have tweeted like 1 or 2 of my flow charts and gotten feedback, and working from there to like different types of wireframe and what people really, really want to be able to do so that they can map more efficiently and find the map item that they're looking for faster. Had to put really, really strict limitations on how much I can do, because people will say, oh, I'd really like, the integration of maps with the fragments or scarabs to exist. And I'm like, but those are 2 different tabs, and I don't think that I can like bridge that gap. So yes, that's a good piece of information, but not something I can action in this project. Which sucks, but I like the ingenuity that the community comes up with. Anyway, I've done my wireframes, and I'm about to start mocking stuff up in Figma and maybe some other design stuff. What's interesting though is that my course, like other students in my course are all doing like apps and websites, and part of the course like steps involve, developing a style guide. And I'm like, well, this is already set for me. So I was talking to my mentor and saying, like, can I use Photoshop? Because I'm fairly confident that I can take some of the game elements and then Photoshop them into what the UI should look like. Because there are a lot of visual symbols and cues that Path of Exile players will respond to. And if they're not sure what they are, they'll mouse over them and use a tooltip to explain what it is. Rather than, like in proper UX design, you would have just like very efficient labeling and like symbol use that, is very ubiquitous. So like arrows or ticks and stuff. But he was pretty receptive to that. So I'm keen to get into the digital design side of it and start having a prototype that I can test on people and be like, can you use this and show me how you go with it? Yeah, one of the things that comes up for me when I think about Path of Exile UX design is that the tooltip thing is far too, like everyone leans very heavily into using it. So much so that we have like advanced mod descriptions, which is like, your tooltip that already has like a paragraph of text. Let's, hit Alt and make that bigger. Which is a really bad overall UX design thing, but because this game was based on like some stuff that was said in 2012, 2013, it's not really developed since then. It's interesting though. Yeah.
I feel it's like the guild tab where they just set it and forget it. Like, all right,
don't
got 2
talk about
guild
the guild
tabs,
tab,
get out of
please.
here.
Yeah, let's
I
not bring
know,
up
right?
guild stuff.
I know.
A
They
short
said it.
mention on it. I have, in my guild, I have remove-only tabs that have been empty for over 6 years. No, I'm serious. And I've made messages and emails once or twice a year. They're still there. I'm just done. I can't be arsed with it anymore.
You know, the guild tab just becomes a mess, and you're like, you live in standard now. I'm not looking at you ever again. Don't die, Ghazzy. Oh yeah,
I gotta wash that out with some rubber.
I got to a point
Oh,
where I
shit.
actually, in my hideout, hid my guild stash elsewhere. Like, it's like, because my hideout's like a big zone, but then I enclosed it in a circle, and the guild stash is like way elsewhere.
So you exiled your guild stash?
Yeah, I did. I really did. Okay.
Ugh.
Are we ready to get into this harvest stuff?
Oh yes.
Now I wish that I had a beer, but yes.
I cannot drink
Yeah.
this early in the morning. It's 9:30 a.m.
I know it's
You're
like 3:30
Australian,
p.m.
yes,
I
you
have work to
can.
do after. Still. But yes,
As far
I'm
as I
ready.
understand it, it's Saturday in Australia. Don't
Mm.
you drink when you just get up? Like,
I don't know how anyone
Just
can
Exactly.
just like wake up and have alcohol. Unless it's
I mean,
mimosa.
Monday is close enough to the weekend. Tuesday is borderlining, but it's still okay. Wednesday, you're almost at Thursday, which is very close to Friday. So I mean, every day should be fine.
Yeah.
yeah, I see your logic.
Yeah.
I am a fake Aussie though, I really am.
What?
I don't like drinking as much as like the typical Australian does personally. Like I just it's an occasional thing, and I've honestly been out a lot this week. Like way more than I have in the last year. And I like peaked. So I had well, somebody was okay, before we get into harvest, somebody was visiting Sydney for work, who is a coworker of ours that we've never met in person before, but works remotely in Melbourne. And she's been here since Wednesday. So we've been in the office Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And on Friday, we had like our makeup Christmas party. So yesterday. And that started at 1. And then, wow, everyone was really drunk. And I was like, the first 2 days that I've been in the office, we've gone out afterwards and stayed out drinking with like our team, and then some friends joined us afterwards. And like Friday, I woke up feeling so unwell. I wasn't hungover at all, but I just like couldn't have more. Anyway, I just tried to enjoy it for the social experience instead of trying to get really wasted, even though I wasn't paying that time.
You don't drink to get wasted. That's like for 12-year-olds. You drink because it's good. That's why you get a nice bottle
we
of
have
rum.
some people at my office who are quite young, and that's
12-year-old.
Yeah, that's
In
the one.
spirit.
In Australia, it's not legal to drink until you're 18, and you can't like just go to a bar like you do in Europe.
Amateurs.
I mean, it's not
You're
legal in Sweden
21.
either, but we can just take the boat over to Denmark. 10 minutes later, you can drink when you're 15.
Yeah, that.
I mean, there's
we
solutions.
can't take a boat anywhere, bro. Like, we can't leave this
Zealand,
fucking
what do
island.
you mean?
Wait, but if you take the boat out on the water, aren't you on tax-free areas?
Aren't
No.
you in international
Our,
waters?
our water is owned by Australia. Like, there's the circumference of which is Australia. Anyway, this is not Path of Exile relevant. Let's
Okay.
talk about that topic that we're so keen
about
to get
harvest.
into.
It's about harvest.
I let you guys distract me. All right. Okay, let's start with first reactions to the manifesto. Does anybody have like a real spicy take they want to just jump in with?
Keck W.
Nobody wants to say anything. I saw the manifesto. I was like, oh shit. Let's just settle before I say a single word. A couple hours later, Reddit was on fire. People were rioting on the streets. And everybody went crazy on YouTube. And I'm like, I'll probably wait a few more hours. And I was like, I better go to bed and I'll talk about it when I wake up. And when I woke up
to that
it was
shit,
like
man.
post-apocalyptic everywhere. It was crazy.
I woke up to that shit. It was already on fire.
I remember thinking it'll need some time to die down, and then it just didn't for days.
Yeah, it wasn't like a fire. It was like a snowball that was also on fire, but was
Yeah.
still just getting bigger and bigger.
felt like
and
it
you're
And
was
the fire's
to
also
me.
acid.
yeah.
Yeah, it was everything just mixed into it. Oh man.
Oh my god.
The memes have been incredible, though. Oh
Yeah.
my
Yes.
god, the memes. The meme economy and Path of Exile subreddit is at an all-time. I saw it on our all, and I'm like, these people don't even know what this is about. They have no idea.
Wait, what? Really? Which one did you see on RL, or more than one?
Yeah, which one?
I think it was the
Was it the Tom and Jerry one?
No. It was
Oh.
actually, I'm pretty sure it was the unique, the like 50% chance to like exalt it and have it double or take away. It was like it was a unique, like blind.
Oh yeah,
God,
the
what was it
the
called?
unique.
It was,
Yeah, I remember it.
yeah. I saw. I'm like, people don't understand what this means. Like, how did it get so high? Yeah,
Look, we
I
like the stonk, okay?
yeah, just. But it's been pretty spicy over there, you know.
Yeah.
It's been a kind of a, I don't know. It was kind of expected to see the result of the community, well, the vocal community. I don't have to say that, but with that said, like I eventually did make a video where I covered at least the basics of what I wanted to get across. But even that video was like, I spent the first 2 minutes being like, this is my opinions, and how I see it, and I'm going to talk about the different point of views, try to cover everything to make sure that I have every excuse not to be attacked right after.
Yeah.
There's no
then I
safeguarding
could go into
yourself
the
against this
topic.
shit, yo. I feel like people
Yeah, I
can't
mean-
even look at someone's YouTube channel and be like, well, obviously it's going to be their opinion.
I don't know. It was crazy. Like I have a personal opinion of what I would have preferred, but that doesn't line up well with no one in the community but me, and it's not good for the longevity of the game either. So, like, what I would prefer to see would be something that I don't personally would prefer, but that I believe would be better for the game. But I mean, I think a lot of people have a problem with that, and that they only see their opinion, which is based on what would be best for them, to be the best way to handle it. And I guess the core problem goes back to the fact that I think SK Cloudy mentioned that. I brought him in on my stream and had a discussion with him about this, and he expressed it in a way that GGD are future-proofing the game, which I think is very good because we already have other issues like itemizations and drops and whatnot, and Harvest kind of diminishes the value of lower tier bases than the best. Why would you look at something that is not of all regalia, or a Sorcerer Gloves, for example? Because everything that is below that, even if it's 6 tier 1, is worse than what you can do with Harvest. Why bother?
Yeah.
So I think it's good for future proofing, but no matter what they did, they would never cater to the majority of the player base. They could take away Harvest and I'd be overjoyed, but that would not cater to the majority of the player base. And they could leave it as it is, and that wouldn't cater to the majority. And anything in between would have the same result. I
That's
expressed
a
it in a
very
way that.
insightful point.
Yeah, because I expressed it in this way that if you ask 1,000 people how they would have preferred them to handle Harvest, you would get at least 500 different opinions, which would all be very, very good, and they would be very strong opinions, and they would be very, very loud, and they all would have all said that all the other opinions but theirs would be shit in comparison to theirs, and I think that's the problem. I think that they had to do something, and no matter what they did, they would get fired for it.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that last bit for sure, because it's just living through the Harvest League itself and then seeing it come back exactly almost as it was, except with the crafting limit.
But I think the biggest problem was not what they did, it's how they did it. That's the core problem in what sparked it. Because if we never got full power Harvest in Ritual, and instead we would get what is about to happen for Ritual instead, people wouldn't be flaming. People would be grateful, and they'd say, hey, thanks GGG for letting us keep some of this crafting. Instead, they give us the toy, and they see us having too much fun, and they'd be like, no, let's just take that toy back, break it in half. Here, you can have this much fun. And then people got mad.
Well, it's
That's
not even
the issue.
giving us the
Oh, sorry.
toy. I mean, like they gave us the toy once, and they're like, we'll see about this," and they give it back again at full power. Like, how did they not know from the actual league how dominant it was going to be? Did they really think that Ritual was going to stand up, or any of the other crafting methods were going to stand any sort of chance against full powered Harvest? I mean, every other single crafting system immediately becomes redundant.
Yeah. Or just
It's
craft
just-
facing and prep for it.
I just don't
where
understand how at full power, none full power is the part where I'm just scratching my head most probably, because they act like they didn't have statistics and data and information about it. They're like, well, we weren't sure, so we're going to put it in and see. And
But they
it's
made
like,
whole posts about how it was overpowered.
yeah, like,
They
didn't you
knew.
just talk about in your development of Manifesto when you took it away the first time that it was like as broken as
Yeah.
you thought it was? Period?
Mhm.
Question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone with half a functional goat's brain could have seen this coming a mile away. So I was pretty surprised with this all.
Because a
I
lot of our conversations about Harvest were like, how did this get in full power? Like, what is
Yeah.
going on? Like,
Mm.
a lot of our podcasts were like 2 or 3 times ago. We're all like, what the, you know?
Yeah. I
we
think
even sorry, we did
No, go ahead.
speculate on targeted
Mhm.
annuls. Like
Yeah.
like even during the league, we're like, this isn't gonna stay. There's no way.
Mhm.
It's too powerful. Like, how could it possibly stay? Came back exactly that. Like, what? What? I'm sorry, my mind's still kind of.
I think I feel like they underestimated how much people would risk their items and go to a Discord to try to trade. I feel like they're like, put on 10, nobody's gonna talk to each other. It's gonna be fine.
And don't forget
They're all
the new rule
antisocial
change
as
they did on
fuck,
Reddit.
right?
Well, not to mention that, do you know your player base? We
Yeah.
are nerds. Like, what do you think we
Huge.
were gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Reddit also got this new rule where you're not even allowed to call out the scammers in the same way you've been able to, because they've already prohibited that on the Path of Exile forums. You're not allowed to talk
Yeah.
ill or flame anyone or call out, even if you have proof. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
They
No,
just
no.
remove everything, which has been a
Mhm.
big topic many years ago, where people said that GG caters to the scammers and whatnot. And now that with the trading function has been moved over to a third party, which is a terrible solution, but all praise to TFT, no matter what all the shit that's been going on there in late last couple of months. It's still the best solution we have, and it's amazing. It's an amazing
Mhm.
tool, because imagine trading that shit without Harvest, without TFT. That would mean that only streamers could ask for collateral, pretty much, and we would have a
Mhm.
very easy access to crafting, and that would cater to us. I mean, yay us, but I mean, anyone else would get shit on. So I don't know. I just think it's pretty sad. And then with a rule change on the Reddit, where they're now not preventing that from being brought to light, that just again further emphasizes on this entire trade function being brought to a third party tool to be moderated. And obviously that has its pros and cons. It's less
Yeah.
work for them, but it's uh, promoting power abuse, which we've seen.
I think like
mm.
a couple, what was it, like 4 days ago, before they came out with the manifesto, somebody's like, Harvest needs to change. They wrote this big thing on the post subreddit, like, Harvest has to change, it's no good. And then they're like, all right, we'll change Harvest. And they're like, yo, what the hell are you doing? You're changing Harvest? People are so mad. But honestly, considering how OP they always make the next league, like for all I know, next league's like you can have 5 implicits and 5 other mods, and then you can woke orb 5 things together, and it's all a bunch of 5s. This league is actually ultimatum 5. But but you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be just fine. And the fact that they kept in the prefix and suffix like holdle and reroll is huge.
Those are the
It's
ones
like,
I probably use the most.
yeah,
I
they're
really like
huge.
those.
Those are
Even I've used
big for
them,
changing your item. Mhm.
and I don't use
I mean,
Harvest.
Uh,
It didn't
has
work.
sparked
Can I
up a
can I
really
say one
interesting.
thing before we go like
Mhm.
completely off the rails? Sorry, I've been trying to say
Yeah.
something for like the last
Go.
4
I'm sorry.
people talking. Uh, so I was gonna go back to what BK was saying, because that is basically exactly what I was going to say, is that they gave us candy with Harvest and then literally made posts about this is too powerful, it's ruined the game, we notice what's happening, etc. And I think we all discussed how it would be ridiculous for them to bring it back. And what they did is that they gave it back exactly as is, except for they changed the process. And so what they did is it's still there, exactly as it was, but now it's just harder to get, where you've created this chase sequence of people getting the titanium watchstones with Xana has +1 modifier, and you're just only running atolls. And now they're not playing the other content of the game. And now you have to go do this third-party trading where you don't have the horticrafting. And my biggest takeaway was that I'm just absolutely shocked that anyone put it in as it was, and that anyone is surprised that they're nerfing it. I don't understand how they got to the point of putting it in there as it was at all. And now they've created more issues because they always say, oh, you should do different parts of the game. You should try
Yeah.
different things. And then they put harvest in and make it a very narrow path to how you can get harvests realistically with
Mhm.
extra challenges. But if people know that the only way to get this item is to do this thing, and I can do that thing, now I'm only
Yep.
going to be doing that thing. Uh,
Yep.
yeah. Sorry.
There
It's
was
just
someone that I was
No, you're true.
there was someone I was talking to, and I feel like I tried to touch on this in a previous episode, but they were like, because I know that this is the most efficient way to make a good item, why would I do anything?
you wouldn't. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no reason. Even if you're going to buy the stuff, there's someone who's still doing it because it is out there, it's possible, and there is a clear way to do it. They've just tried to make the way to do it harder, but it's grinding gear games. We're going to do the grindy, stupid stuff to get the best items. You
Yeah.
know we're going to do that.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they nerfed the hell out of harvesting the way they did, and they since bestially haven't even bothered touching splitting. I mean,
Yes.
I've made
Mhm.
5 or 6 under once this league, and they've all sold within hours. All 550, 560 ones. Split them off from 1-1, and I split them off, and each one
Damn.
gave me about 25x profit. Um, but yeah, that's one item, and I came into it late. Now there are people who are doing this with a lot of items, printing 50 to 100 mirrors in a couple of months every league. But that's not fine. That's perfectly okay according to GGG to do, and it's being gate kept as well because it's kind of an investment to get that base, and you can enchant the items so it can't be split anymore. So items that requires more preparing than a one, for example, you're able to split and copy it, and then harvest craft it, obviously. But you can actually do that where the investment to get the base item to split can cost everything from 50 to 100x to get the base rolling. But once you have that sorted, that's printing currency. But I guess that's more okay according to G to some degree because what happens is that it shifts the idea from everyone being able to craft it to the point where a very select few are making hundreds upon hundreds of exaltas a day from this process. And the
Mhm.
result of that is that we have a market that is flooded with 6 white astral linked astral plates. We have a market flooded with +1 Spectre Val Regalias. As soon as one becomes available in the market, that is printed to beyond and it becomes available to the entire community. But the problem with that is the same thing the harvest mechanic in general has in the community, and that is that itemization is no longer worth looking at. Why would I care for a +1 Spectre count chess piece when I know I can purchase a cheap one that is already 6 linked with 6 white sockets, Val Regalia?
Yeah.
Why would I
Yeah.
bother looking at a strength piece when I can get a 6 white socket astral plate for cheaper than anything else? It's just silly. And I think that has the same problematic approach, but it makes it easier for the casual players, which brings me to what I wanted to say before. And that is that this entire harvest discussions that has sparked and being very dominant in the community um, has brought, at least for me, in my personal take, has brought a very good question, and that is, what is the official state of a casual player? What is the actual casual player? Because everyone seems to have different opinions on what a casual player is. Some say they don't get to maps, but if they don't get to maps, they don't even care about harvest because they don't experience
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
Some people say they get to yellow or white yellow tier maps. That's kind of where I would say a casual player is.
Yeah.
But then you have the differences of what is a casual player based of the amount of hours the person's playing or the amount of knowledge he has. Because you can look at the workers class series Power Mage was doing, and he has all the
Mhm.
knowledge, but plays the game 1 hour a day or something, and he
Yeah.
It's
kills
90
everything in the game
minutes. Like 90
in
minutes
90
a day.
minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
but he has all the knowledge, so he doesn't have to go through the process of learning during that game time, which means that he's just doing effective game time for that 1.5 hour. Is that a casual player? It's casual schedule wise, but the knowledge is already there. So it's very hard
The
to tell what a casual player actually is, and that makes this
the
discussion even harder.
the knowledge of this game is so vast that you're not casual if you know even 60% of it. I don't even know how specters work. I've been playing for 8 years. I've never used them. I don't know how to do. You know, I won't know it until I play it. period. Like that's how it works for me. I don't consider myself necessarily a casual, but there's so many different things and interact. I only found out like 3 weeks ago that I could use Wave of Conviction for cold exposure because the way it's worded is actually on your highest amount of elemental damage. So if you have cold as your highest, it will expose cold, and it's not just fire and lightning. And I didn't realize that. And I'm like, it's such a simple wording, you know? Like, but
Don't go
so,
into the nearby though, because there's like 60
Yeah.
different nearby radiuses.
Oh my god, nearbys. Yeah. Yeah, like there's just
For a
so
while,
many
wasn't it?
little
For a time or something?
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, for a
Oh,
for
recently.
There's a for a
What does that
while.
mean?
Nearby his
For a
brother or
while?
something like that.
Yeah. Recently and for a
Nearby his
while,
brother.
nearby.
Well, recently has in the advanced mod description piebypie was in on before actually says 4 seconds.
It does
but
say 4 seconds, but
yes,
it's the
but
wording
for a
where
while
you're like,
doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say shit. It doesn't
is a
say, and
while
then-
longer than recently?
Uh,
Mark,
no.
Mark replied to that on
Yeah.
Reddit too, and I
He did.
still don't understand.
There was some description or explanation, or I want to say excuse, but for the sake of being respectful to GGG, and I don't want to burn any bridges, they were given an explanation as to why the tooltip says recently and doesn't say 4 seconds. And to me, it was like, just fucking change it. I mean, but
Yeah.
apparently, if they change it, there is some other shit they had to do, and it would take a lot of effort to change it. And I'm like, and
Oh my god.
just
Or
do
we
it.
just have too much knowledge. It'd be
Yeah, I
too
mean, you
powerful.
gotta do it.
Overpowered.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what it
Yeah.
means now.
No,
They're
it's
not
just
kidding
keep
when
the
knowledge
game
is the
shrouded
real
in
power.
mystery. Yeah, that's the thing. Is the currency of the game is really just like, what do you know, and what have you figured out? Because
That's
you can't
actually so
actually
true.
know it for sure. The game doesn't
Yeah.
tell you anything.
Yeah.
No sarcasm.
know?
That kind of blew my mind. That's very.
And how can you abuse it?
I love blowing people's
Yeah.
minds.
Well, no, you know what I mean? Like, okay, now that I know that I can pop off this many casts, let me make 800, like, I don't know, SRSs or some shit. I don't know if it has a cap. You know what I mean? Like, let me just cast off 50 casts a second, like those immortal or what are they called? They're forbidden builds.
Worm blasters?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Lily's playing right now?
Yeah, I
She
saw
is.
Lily playing a Worm Blaster. I love those.
Yeah. Yeah, those kind of like the forbidden. Oh, okay. I know that I can pop off this, and this interaction works with this, and now I've 5-headed it up to the moon, and now I broke the game. I broke the servers. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, I know someone who
Yeah.
likes to break the servers on the regular.
Oh, do you? Oh,
No, you know her too.
are we?
She's my
chatting?
mod.
Oh.
She's in chat right now.
Coffee?
Yeah, it's
Breaking
Coffee.
servers on the regular.
Coffee's like, can I crash a server? I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna send them a
Can I
message
show
about
you
it.
me crashing the server? Yeah. I have a little bit of
Exactly.
tinfoil about their average player because I don't think that they're talking about people who don't make it to maps. I think that's pretty clear because they give some indications of the type of person they are looking at when they're nerfing Harvest, when they specifically mention that things like fizz mods or augment fizz, remove add fizz will no longer apply to influenced items. And it's like, that's about Explodey Chest. I'm
Yeah, but
pretty
there are
sure.
other ways to force that though, like based on
Oh,
the nerfs.
of course there are other ways.
So I mean,
but
they're super easy.
I
But
think they look at specific, they're like, well, Explodey Chest is supposed to be hard, even though, as you've said, there's multiple ways to get these crazy items. They're just maybe a little bit more convoluted and maybe involve a little bit more closing your eyes and exalt slamming. But, like, I feel like that's the kind of person they have in mind. They're saying there's an average player. I agree that maybe, like, white, yellow maps, maybe having a hard time in red maps. All of a sudden, they have Explodey Chests too. Those
Yeah.
are supposed to be for the top players. That's like what I'm thinking, because they
I
give
got
some
that
specific
feeling.
hints at what's overpowered.
I feel like they have this, like, kind of going off what Ghazzy was saying before, but even though they say they want to talk to the casual, the average player, like what they really want to do is say, hey, you 1%ers, only some of you can have this thing. But what happens is if a 1%er figures out how to do it, the rest of the 1% is going to do it too. Like, it's not like the knowledge is
mean-
not
They
going to
have
be
things
shared.
like splitting and
That
imprints.
happens every single league regardless.
It does.
Like, there's always going to be that broken thing that you can do with whatever combination of however to, like, yeah, it's just, that's inevitable.
I do want to point out this thing, though, about the casual versus 1% debate and the definition thereof. I agree that it always varies depending on what the topic of conversation is. And when you bring it up in relation to Harvest, the current version of Harvest is implemented in maps, but the original version of Harvest was as you go. And certain league mechanics are introduced at different levels throughout the leveling process of the campaign. The Harvest thing was pointed out by Taki, and Chris's statement to Ziggy talking about Harvest was, what if you had a free exalt while you were leveling? That was one of the thought-provoking reasons why Harvest was how it was. And then they took away that part of it. And the thing about Harvest, one of the things about Harvest that made it really good early game isn't actually Harvest, it was just the way that bases work and what level they are and what mods are available to them. So if you're at a really low level and only some mods are available on that base type and you harvest or use any currency at all on it, then you can make a pretty decent item because you can find the mod you're looking for. I'm thinking about +1/1s specifically as like the most obvious example. But the higher up you get, the more mods are available on that one base, the harder it is to make the item that you're looking for, but then you also have more harvest options available to you to get to that point. But if it's supposed to teach players how to craft, and that was one of the pieces of positive feedback about it, was like, I'm being introduced to currency interactions that I don't have to lose currency to learn how they work. Right? Even they introduce symbols in Harvest. But now it's like, if you don't get to maps, you don't even get exposed to that. You have to risk it. You have to YOLO Chaos, YOLO Exalt to know what they do.
I think something that is important to note as well is like a lot of people have been saying that it's going to hurt the 1% player base, for example, with these nerfs. I don't agree with that at all, because the 1%, it doesn't matter what they do.
It makes it a little bit more
like any of us
difficult.
that plays that much, we will find a way to abuse it. Like beastery splitting has been there. We're going to do that, and like all of us that plays a lot and pushes this Harvest nerfs, it's not going to touch us. We don't care. We did this before Harvest was a thing. And we really pushed it out. We made we made thousands of exalteds in just weeks. It's not a problem. If that's something you want to do, go for it. But that requires all the knowledge, right? And the introduction to crafting in the early stages requires the crafting knowledge to be able to know what you can do with the item, with the crafts. So it wasn't really that helpful for those players either, but it did give an incentivizing feeling for those people to actually bother learning it. And I think that was the best part about it. Whereas the Harvest nerfs and what's happening now is without question going to hurt the more casual player base more than anything, because anyone that is not a casual is not going to be touched by this. They don't care.
Yeah, imagine giving people an item editor and then telling people, no, now use this random chance shit that I put in the game years ago. Right? Like, nobody's gonna want to use that shit.
Something I find really interesting with crafting actually is I had a discussion about this 2 years ago, I think, or a year ago. We talked about fossils and I think it was before fossils. It was essences, at least. That was the main topic. And it was like, how many people use essences to craft? And most people were like, I smack it as a pseudo alcohol when I level, and then they rot in my stash, or I sell them. And even me, who does a lot of crafting every league, if I didn't have a specific purpose, they would get sold, or I just did a YOLO craft with them at some point. That's the only thing Essence went for me, because fossils took over that entire crafting. So Essence became, for the most part, kind of useless. And then we had the fracture availability with synthesis, and we had the fracture availability with harvest, and then Essences had a little bit better value to it. But other than that, it's like most of those scratches becomes completely neglected as another crafting material or crafting mechanic becomes available. Bestiary, we had fossils, and then we had harvest. And now that they're reverting some of the harvest, that just puts the harvest quality down a little bit, which means that we're racing up fossils and essences are still struggling behind. But most people are still not using their essences. Most people are still not even bothering their fossils. They're selling them or they're rotting in their stash till standard comes around.
Well, I will say my fossils are sort of rotting, but I've crafted this league 98% with essences, mainly because I'm a deck stacker. Okay.
Dick stacker?
Dexterity. Okay, I'm a dexterity stacker, and that's both. I've made 2 builds that are dexterity stacking, and yeah, that's how that's yeah. You better write that with a quill. Yeah.
What you said kind of made me think though, because you're right. In the initial harvest introduction, part of why it's explaining to you what the crafts would cost, right? It's an exalt or a null or chance chaos. It has a little symbol, to show you what it is.
That was added in later, the symbol. Remember, we
Yeah.
were all
really?
like
Well,
reading
either
it,
way,
we
it
were
was
like, we're not
intended
sure
to
what this
teach you
does.
what that
But yeah.
type of item would do while you're at a stage in the game where you're not expected to pay for that. But why didn't they, when re-implementing this in maps, not just make you pay what the equivalent currency would be? Like,
Yes.
why isn't it just an exalt and
Why
a
is it
null
free?
to do a remove add?
I think
The
the
If it's not
idea
going to be for leveling.
I think the idea is that
prob-
because you did the cost of killing the monsters, you get it for free with the life juice.
Oh, I do that anyway. I do that for free.
The problem with
that. Yes, we want to kill
solution-
monsters. I agree. Yes.
Yeah, I mean
Gaz?
that would happen anyways. But say you gate it behind paying it. The problem with that is that that's just going to up the cost of the crafts, which gates it even further away from people that don't play enough or don't focus on currency making. And that again just caters to the people that plays enough.
But that's assuming that they expected us to trade the crafts, which
I mean, like we're not. Oh, I got this awesome
there's a
thing. I
lot
could
of
probably
different ways
squeeze
you
out
could
10
do it.
exaltus out of it. Yeah, I'll use it on my leveling weapon. I mean, no, of course we're going to sell it.
I think any of us would say obviously people are going to trade, but I just am so confused as to how that wasn't implemented in any way. And I think the big sparking point, and sorry if I'm starting a snowball on fire here, but is that they addressed trade and that
By
they said
mentioning it.
people are using a Discord to trade, and then just that one sentence of acknowledging that it happened and no sense of resolution on there. And so like they're like, oh well, if we nerf it, that'll fix the need to trade it. Like, what do you tell me more? What do you mean?
Oh my god.
Sorry,
There is
but
so much.
it's gotta be said.
My issue with it is the manifesto is all words that don't say much.
Ah, yes.
Even
The Path of
the-
Exile way, though.
Yes. Yay.
You
Words
leave
that
more
don't say
confused
things.
and angrier than ever.
Yeah.
I'm angry because I'm confused.
This is
I
the
don't
mood.
understand.
Oh man.
I think
So
what
good.
made Harvest in this iteration, at the end of the day, like gave, I guess, the response it's getting across so many, is because when we look at Harvest and how we spent our time in this last league, or at least how I would say, like, I don't know, do we say casual majority? I don't know at this point in time. We'll just say a group of players were interacting with Harvest as their one-stop shop for all all crafting options. And I think why we have this visceral sort of anger about it being nerfed this way is that it will no longer be in one place. People are going to be angry because now I got to go look up fucking fossils again and look at essences again and figure out how to tame stupid beasts and do all this other bullshit. And I think that was one of the underlying cries that we're seeing from this, if we scrape away all of the anger and all of like because people are going to draw lines in the sand however they want to fit their own arguments.
Yeah.
But the end of the day is that what we want is centralized crafting, or at least crafting that you can do the same thing and engage with the system that you prefer of the available ones. Because the way it felt last thing was all roads lead to harvest, whether you start the item with putting
Yep.
chaos res on it because you start with an essence, or you add chaos res at the end with an all chaos. Like, it doesn't matter how it goes through, every single time you ended up in harvest.
Very true.
And
At
I
least
think
for
that's
99%.
right. And I think that that's what they're mostly pulling back from, is I feel like they're yanking it back because they're trying to make it more in line with the other available crafting methods, and they're not hearing everyone say, like, look, I don't want to level 5 fucking rogues, and I don't want to
No.
unveil everything, and I don't want to have to dig down
Yeah.
and get resonators and fossils, and I don't want to have to click on all this extra stuff. And
Yeah.
I think, like, if we could just get the anger gone and have, like, actual conversations about this, because the other part of it, it doesn't even acknowledge at all, is the fact that your gear should not be the only thing that gets your build to endgame.
Let me just tell you, if you need an explodey chest to kill a boss, you got bigger problems. So you know what I'm saying.
Because I mean, that is just like, are we going to continue to ignore the other fundamental pillars of what makes a build powerful? Or are we just going to focus on
Yeah.
crafting because it's the punching bag right now? Why aren't we matter about the 50 reskilled gems that we completely got shit on?
Yeah. Can
Like,
we
why
talk
don't we
about
talk about some of the passive tree changes, how they're stealth nerfing all these different sources of, like, reduced damage taken to make the game harder, but they're not, like, is harvest supposed to fix that, or are you supposed to give us, like, more integrated guard skills or all sorts of other things? Like, the balance comes from across the board, and relying on gear to be the only thing that, like, makes a build in-game viable is bad game design. They need to go back and look at the other things. Like, fine, pull harvest back. Make gear that cherry on top of the sundae for the people that have the time to get it. That's great. That should be what they chase no matter what.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, I hate the fact that to make bleed mines work, I have to have 450x worth of gear.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
just say
because
though.
I like
I
to play
like
off meta
weird
too.
shit. Like, I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
into it, okay? And if I want to make bleed mines, I want to make bleed mines, but I don't want harvest to be the reason why I get bleed mines.
And
Yeah.
harvest was like the band-aid to these other nerfs that are basically, they talk about power creep, but it feels like sometimes it's not focused on the right areas, where there's a few builds that will always work, but sort of the more off-meta builds are getting, you know, weirdly targeted in the fray of adjusting for some of the more meta builds. And so then if you want to try to do something weird, harvest was that band-aid, because it is, if you're not having the tree, if the support gems or the skill gems are getting nerfed, that's where you're going to be able to make that work. And I think that having lots of different builds, they don't all have to be good. Most of mine are totally meh if I come out of them, just, you know, pull something out of my ass and make a build out of it. Like, that's not always going to be good. But with harvest, I think it did act as a band-aid for a lot of builds, and now it feels like they're pulling that away without an adjustment to what might be, you know, a more diverse or a more you know, reasonable way to adjust it, which is things like the tree, which is things like the gems themselves.
Yeah.
I
There's
have to
a
chime in there because I don't agree entirely, but at the same time I do. Just hear me out here. I think that the off-meta builds were played and were helped a lot by Harvest, obviously. Absolutely. I also have been keeping track of PoE Ninja of the actual percent of player bases of certain builds. And ever since Harvest became a thing, there has been a higher pressure on meta builds than anything else. Before Harvest was a thing, we had a higher diversity of builds than before
Yes.
Harvest. And this is a
That is right.
result of more people having access to playing the meta builds. More because basically what I like to describe it as is what Harvest did to the market, which is why the casual players hurt the most, especially the ones not even crafting, is that Harvest crafting made higher or big ticket items super accessible, but they were still very expensive. And anything that was halfway there became mid-ticket items, which was massive. So many people crafted. It was such an overflow in the market with these items, which created a situation where the market turned into a buyer's market. So they basically, the sellers were undercutting one another, becoming accessible and cheaper for the actual player bases that don't have hundreds upon hundreds of exalteds. And shit items, if we want to call it that, did not exist. And the reason for this was very simple, because Harvest Craft was there, so shit items was neglected. Therefore, you always went for the mid-ticket items or the big-ticket items. Now, without Harvest or before Harvest, the big-ticket items went from this size down to a little peanut.
Yep.
And the mid-ticket items went from a fucking watermelon to an apple. And the shit items went from non-existent to being the dominant area on the market. So the mid-ticket items became a seller's market, and the mid-ticket items had the same experience as the big-ticket items. And this all hurts the casual players the most, because the markets then becomes a situation where all of those items that are really good, especially for meta builds, becomes very expensive and harder to achieve for the casual players. But because of that, more people played non-meta builds. And that's been proven over many, many years now, that before Harvest it was a thing, less people had access to these meta gear. And because of that, the build diversity in the community was wider. And you don't need to play a meta build to clear off everything in the content. I think that's a very big misconception. I mean, we've seen
off meta.
Yeah, I mean, off meta builds can be more fun to play. And we have another topic we can just briefly mention, is that this is actually, believe it or not, this is a game, and we want to have fun playing it. Yeah, I'm sorry to break the glass here in front of you guys, but it is a game. And the problem with that, the problem with that is that people would rather rather efficiently and burn out and then come back and do the same thing every league, rather than having fun with it. And I think that before Harvest was a thing, people weren't as compelled to play only the meta, like the aura stacking or a higher end Spectre builds or whatever you want to play, carrying golems, fire BBF, the entire shenanigans, right? So the problem was that we had a higher build diversity before Harvest, but at the same time, Harvest hurts enabling off meta builds at the same time. But despite that existing, we had a higher pressure of meta builds.
That's what I
they're easier to get now. The gear for it.
Go ahead, Pi.
Sorry.
After Noodle was saying what she was saying, I kind of wanted to revisit the idea of like what Harvest does or doesn't enable, but Ghazzy's point throws a spanner in my discussion. So what I was gonna say is, like, while I've been collecting I don't like to have an opinion straight away reading manifestos or anything. So I like to go around and collect a lot of opinions, read a lot of other people's points of view, try to dispel what they think, and then try to like fit it all in my head, maybe go watch a 4-hour movie, Snyder Cut, and then maybe come up with an opinion afterwards. Like, and it took me quite a while, and I still don't have a fixed idea of what I like or dislike about this, right? But I did get quite a few opinions that said, you know, I could not make this item which enabled this build if not for Harvest. It is simply not possible. It would cost thousands of exalts, which cannot be amassed in any one person's lifetime, the amount of exalts required. And that, like, my question becomes, should that item need to exist, or is there some kind of other way that you could achieve it through other balance, which is where BK was going? Like, these Harvest items for the off meta builds are simply compensating for balanced design that doesn't exist in every area of the market. So the question becomes, should everything be able to do all the content? Should we? And what is all the content? Is all of the content including like Feared and all of those top level boss fights, or is all the content like, oh, can you just consistently do tier 16s with like corrupted tier 16 maps?
But we already have kind of breakpoints in what builds are capable of doing.
Right.
Take a look at Crouching Tuna's Delve build. He did with his Arbot 4.5 billion Shaper DPS. He would die on the first pack he encountered in a tier 16 map. And my build, this was during Harvest League, so we had really insane gear at this point. I thought I could beat him in DPS with a build that worked for mapping, and I only reached 2.4 billion shape DPS with a multiple mirror aura bot. And that was crazy, but I couldn't do anything near the delving he was doing. So the only breakpoint we really have is like the deep delving versus not deep delving. And then you have the magic find map clearing versus actual boss But those are like the three only categories that breaks you off from the build can't do this, but it can do everything
Yeah.
else.
Mm.
Well,
Hot take
there's
here.
also a difference between a build that literally would not work, would not be able to get through tier 16s without harvest, and something that is an off meta build that you've done that is good, that you can make some really fun items to make better with harvest. And that's what I
Yeah.
found, like replacing my staff, like my pillar staff with oh, now I can craft a +3 all fire spell skill gems with a cool influence. Like, ooh, maybe I can get ignite steal damage faster. And like, it's hard to craft that on your own, but it's something like a project that I work on. But yeah, I don't think it should enable builds that are garbage normally to be able to do anything.
Well, okay. I personally think that clusters have been the greatest thing to enable off-meta builds ever.
Preach.
Yes, clusters have really pushed us into new areas.
So
Harvest has
Harvest.
pushed us back into going pure meta. Delve and Endgame are so far apart from each other because what you need to deep delve is stupid, and what you need to finish the game is not that bad in comparison, right? Like
Very
I just
true.
saw somebody. I'm logged in right now because I'm a degenerate who can't stop playing the game. I saw somebody hit like 25,000 delve. I'm like, can you just relax? You know,
Can you calm
yeah, you
down?
gotta calm
sir?
down, right? And okay, does anybody remember? I know Demi hasn't streamed in a long time, but Demigod King LOL.
Mhm.
Then he changed his name to Demi. Don't you guys remember? Demi spent like 10,000 exalts to make the undisputed axe that had a whole bunch of drama around it, right? But like, you know, the axe. And then you get to harvest and you just blow that axe out of the water first try like it's nothing. And it's like that thing, you guys shouldn't be able to nobody should be able to easily obtain mirrored items, period. They're supposed to be so insane. They're supposed to be 10,000 exalt rare, not like 40 exalt and you got it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's not supposed to be like that's never what they intended with the game. And you can still do so many off meta builds, but it is really frustrating that like your point you're like I'm doing a VD build right now. I have these boots that have tailwind, cooldown recovery, and then 6 ES. So I technically need like 7 harvests to finish these boots, but I don't trade. So they're probably just gonna stay as is.
And I still
Honestly.
think it's ridiculous you can strap a Deadeye and an assassin to your feet and run around. I still think that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's just like it's just it we can still do you don't need millions of DPS. I've done builds that do less than that kill shaper. It's fine. You have to dodge more and that kind of sucks. But
If you're playing a dot build to kill
Yeah.
Uber Elder, you need 250 up to 300,000 shaper DPS to kill Uber Elder comfortably. You need to know the mechanics, and the
Yeah.
reason you need that DPS is because that DPS is enough to kill the ads before they drop a fish damage pool on the ground. That's literally the break point of killing Uber Elder. 250 to 300,000 shaper DPS. Yet people seem to want to overgear themselves to the point where they're doing 20 or 25 to 30 million shaper DPS instead, killing it in a few seconds. Now you can achieve that without harvest, without clusters. Well, to some degree. But I mean, we had builds like that before as well. It was called Blade Flurry. And it was there to one-shot bosses as soon as they spawn. And their solution was, well, if a boss has an immunity phase, we're just going to make it take less damage. So you can't do that. And we still do it. I think the record on a Shabi is 0.0873 seconds. Unless somebody beat me.
What?
And that's just obnoxious. And we're able to achieve these numbers. And it's crazy. But people want to overgear where they don't need to. And I mean, I enjoyed playing my super decked out builds. That's really fun for me to do, but I usually have one every league. And that's something I use for service runs because I can guarantee success without worrying and without caring. But I have more fun leaving that for those services and playing something I enjoy that is
Mhm.
normally off meta, like you guys we talked about before as well. And those builds, they don't reach those numbers. But
No.
going back to what you said about clusters, the whole meta shift has that emerged when Delirium League came, and that is the
Yep.
aura stacking that
I was
emerged
about
from
to
that.
say, yeah, it was the 1-2 punch of Delirium into Harvest that just completely blew away people having reasonable expectations for builds.
True.
Because
That's fair.
Delirium did it the one way by saying, like, all of a sudden, 4 to 5 million boss DPS isn't enough anymore. Because now you have to do like the tier 19, 100% delirious craziness, and your build should do this. Why the fuck can't it do that? You have a bad build. And it's like, no, I just don't want to do that content. And then right into height or into harvest, which is like, oh, well, you needed that super awesome gear to do the 10 million. Well, here you go. And like here's your millions and millions and your copied print mirrors. And I think it's like that swing from people going, oh fuck, I can't have just 5 million DPS. I have to have 10 or 20 or 30 to feel like I can do anything, to like the crafting of like in that like sort of, and then turn created the dependence on this crazy gear.
Something that was mentioned in chat
It-
was the whole Maven heal that really shoves stick in the wheel for the lower DPS approaches. When
Yeah.
Maven starts healing a boss,
Yep.
builds that one shots the boss don't care. But anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't have those big dick gear or the builds are able to do it, therefore ergo meta builds. If you play a non-meta build and you're not able to achieve those numbers, you still need a ton of DPS to counteract that heal provided
Yeah.
by.
I
And
was doing
there
a
are ways
flame wall
around this.
build, and she did
Yep.
life prolong, I think 4 times in the last phase of Shaper, and I was like, he's so, just let him die. And it would be like, he'd get this close and it's ticking down because it's damage over time, and it'd go back up. It is funny to me that nowadays it feels like a lot of people are measuring the success or how good a build is by the number you see in Path of Building and not if it can do all the content. Right?
Listen, and those Path of Building warriors that just add a bunch of shit that doesn't actually
Yeah, they
exist,
just
like, in
check
the
everything in the
right?
calculations.
Like, yeah,
You're
I've got all
"Mhm,
the shock in
mhm."
the world, and I do all like they don't. They
I'm just
just
gonna
don't.
slide some intimidate in there without gloves or access to it. Just
Yeah. They're
no
covered
one's
in
gonna
ash.
catch
I'm
that
on
one.
consecrated ground. Also, I'm
Yeah.
moving, and I've killed recently. And I'm like,
Maybe
In a
that's-
boss fight, you've killed
maybe
recently.
in a boss
worth
fight.
pointing
okay,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
totally.
Cyrus
Mhm.
encounter, okay.
The thing is,
Oh, yeah,
with
totally.
Path of Building,
That's
you can
another
create.
argument too. Sorry, go ahead, bye.
The thing with Path of Building is you can create a perfect item. You can create a set of perfect items.
Oh yeah.
Harvest basically made
It's
that
a-
a reality.
And
Yeah.
it's the knowledge to know whether or not you look at that and say, I can't make this bullshit. Like, you
Yeah,
know
like,
what I'm saying?
but the thing is,
I can't
now
do
that Harvest is here, you can make bullshit happen.
if you trade, but I'm not willing to risk the scamaz. Like, as Path of Math lost 100 exalts
Ugh.
because he traded with a trusted dude, with a guy on the
Yeah,
TFT that was trusted. Guy just took his chess piece and said, nah. Like, he just
I heard
did.
the craziest story in my chat earlier today. A guy's friend got his top tier ring scammed, and it was lacking one item. It was mirrors worth, and
No.
and the guy started,
No.
and his friend reached out to buy it from the scammer for a mirror, and now he wanted to finish it. So instead, he started spamming up fake trades on the DFT to do this craft, and the scammer contacted him, and he scammed it right back.
Oh my.
This
All
is a
things
revenge
good.
story I enjoy.
What I wanted to say,
Oh,
though,
man.
is that it's been a long-standing meme in the community that Path of Building is the game and that Path of Exile is the simulator. Like, maybe that mentality, as much as it is called a joke, maybe that's actually fostering the wrong community idea, because Path of Building really is just a very, very complicated calculator.
That we
And you can make
desperately
the biggest
need,
number.
because I don't understand how anything works honestly without it. I just need it.
I think the third part of the equation is that they're upping the complexity of things, whether it's
Yes.
like the encounters in general, the boss fights, etc. Like, despite the mess Cyrus is, and despite how you feel about the memory game, these are completely different bosses
Mm-hmm.
than Shaper, than even like Shaper's Guardians and its Siri and everything like that. And I think that's sort of like the other part of where this insane pressure on gearing and DPS numbers comes from too, is because they're making these encounters harder while continually stripping away the things that we're using to try and build defenses for these encounters,
Mm.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
giving us nothing in return. Like, they shadow nerfed all the different like damage taken as stuff as far as converting things out to elemental damage and then taking less
Mm-hmm.
elemental resistances. Like, they've stealth nerfed all the reduced damage taken and reduced physical damage taken from the passive tree. They're like doing all of these things to make it harder, but not giving us any tools that I think are actually capable of solving those problems in return, aside from crafting. And that, again, should not be where these answers are solved.
Which
I
actually
think
brings
that
us back
I
to the
think that
1%.
that's true.
So
I
rather
think
than, so rather than trying to do the mechanic the way that the designers are intending it, people are just like, well, if I get 40,000, if I get 40 million damage, I don't have to do the mechanic at
Yeah.
all.
yeah.
So, like, why do I care about Cyrus Storms or the Degen fields or anything like that if I can just, like, instant shit phase all of these things anyways, and I don't have to learn the game?
I was thinking
I
about
think
that
that's
too.
I think that's a result of people, streamers, and content creators, and Meta and Reddit.
What?
Like it's just
How dare you
people,
say this is my fault?
specifically BK. Like,
God damn
damn
it.
you.
It's absolutely
Damn
BK's
you.
fault.
But it's like it's a result of us streamers showing bills where we're doing this, and some of us are doing it for fun, some of us are doing it because it's a goal we have, and for me, I use it because I like to provide services for the community, and I leave that character for that purpose. I do it that way because I don't have to care about the mechanics. Hell, even the memory game, I'll let the service guy die in the first phase, and the last memory phase, I log out and I log back in, and I just watch the explosion go during my grace period, and then I burst the boss in half a second. I don't even have to do it. I don't even use my brain. Nothing. I just sit there. It's fine. We find ways to bypass these things, and these high DPS numbers allows us to do that. And then people see this
Mhm.
and be like, "Oh, I want to do that," and they might not enjoy it because, or they might
Mhm.
enjoy it for a couple of days. I mean, most of us have certainly played different meta builds, and I mean, I've done R stacking once, half-assed, and I didn't like it. I played it for 2.5 hours, and then I sold everything because I found it obnoxiously boring. And everyone has each their own, right, with their different perspectives of it. But the problem is that I believe that GGG is trying to make the game more appealing to casual players by allowing more power and more information early on, such as Harvest, for example, or Delirium with cluster jewels and whatnot, to be accessible to the majority of player base. But the problem is that most people play Trade League, most people play softcore, and we are going into a position where the player base that plays a lot, I don't want to say the 1%, but the player base that do play the most, we abuse the shit out of that. And as we abuse it, the leftovers of what we're doing enters the market, or it's done for profit. And that is being picked up by the people that don't play as much. And that gives them now all that power, bypassing all of these progressional states. I mean, it is an RPG game, a RPG game. And
Mhm.
at that point, we're in a situation where the progression stage is just completely neglected. We get to level 70 or 80, depending on your ranks, and you just smack on full gear, and then you run through the
Yeah.
content until you're bored. There's no
How dare you
progression
call me
after
out
that.
like that,
Yep.
sir? I feel like
I have a new build I'm making on at the moment. I'm doing a zombie build for nostalgic reasons.
Oh yeah?
I'm level 65, and I haven't changed my gear since level 30. And once my character is level 70, I will strip it off naked, and I'll put on all the top tier gear I have or craft for it, and then I'll run through
So
the game till I'm bored of the build. There's no
what you're telling
progression
me
for me.
is that you're wearing Wanderlust, a tabula, a gold rim, and you're cruising.
The 7 league steps, sir.
Oh,
Ma'am, sorry.
sorry. Listen, we're in the military here. It's sir.
And
Yeah.
freedom of movement oiled on the amulet. I haven't corrupted it for movement speed. I'm not that much of an elitist.
Wow, I can't believe it. You're a 1%er. I expect more. Okay.
No, but like there's no progression, right? So, and a lot of
Mm.
the enjoyment, there's a reason Diablo, for example, caters to casual players because they get to progress during their playtime, and then they're bored of the game 5 hours later because
Mhm.
they finished everything. Whereas in Path of Exile, it was supposed to be a progressional game where you always had something to progress to. It was always something you could upgrade. It was always something you could get better, maybe levels or achievements or goals you were going for, or progressing your actual gear stage. But as clusters, jewels came in, and harvest came in, and this meta shaped up to the way it is, especially with the help of bestiary splitting from bestiary league, we're in a position where there is no gear progression. You fully gear your character, and then you don't care about the gear. You just mac it up. You might lack a piece, and those pieces are usually utility slots, like in Bottle of Faith, for example. And that kind of ruins the progressional stage for a lot of people. And as these things become more and more accessible, thanks to Delirium, thanks to Harvest, we're in a position where this progression is the gear progression stops sooner and for more players. At the same time, as GG is trying to make the game more accessible to get to the progressional stage for a lot of people, as most people don't reach yellow tier maps, don't get to red tier maps. But with these powers, they are able to reach that. But they are able to reach that because instead of progressing their way there, they're given everything as soon as they hit done with the Kitava.
I want to revisit a point that BK was making, and then somebody in chat. So I'm going to read something from chat and then kind of go off that. And then we can go back to the progression point, which is really useful, but I want to revisit a thing about boss mechanics. So Audio Blood said, isn't the problem that mechanics are obscured and unclear? There is no way to know what they are or how to mitigate them, so the easiest way to deal with almost any mechanic is to delete it. And with Ghazzy's just even just saying, oh, well, when I'm running services, I let them die, I log out, I log back in again instead of interacting with it. And if I can't one-shot it, you know, that's how I deal with it. And I have to say, I agree. Like, there's a certain science to how the Shaper Uber Elder fights work. There's a certain, like, way that you need to play that interaction. But then there are certain new bosses where it's just like, well, this random shit happens. I don't have any control over it. I can't influence it. If I don't survive or one-shot, then I can't do it. And how can you possibly learn under those circumstances? So then, yeah, the pressure that BK's been talking about is on the gear because there's nothing in this tree or the skills that fixes it.
Well,
and that was my whole argument for like the past whatever time that Cyrus has existed, is that it's just simply bad boss design. The argument to that is to reapproach boss design in the parameters of an action RPG and figure out different mechanics than die beams and memory games that make those those encounters compelling. Like if
personally,
people's response to your boss design is to stack so much damage they don't have to do the boss design, then probably try to think of different boss design.
Yeah.
I
And
think
I know it's like easier said than done. It's not like you just like crap out
Yeah,
bosses
yeah,
every
right?
single day, and they
Actually-
take like an absolute
Do it.
immense amount of like actual time and development and coding and modeling and all the other kind of stuff.
When I think
I
But
about
played
you know,
I played a game called Destiny. I'm not a big fan of it because everything felt like bullet sponges.
Yeah.
The raids they had, there was multiplayer, but the raided boss encounters in there was really interesting in the way they had mechanics, and which I think could be really cool implemented in PoE, where you had to do certain objectives. You had to go through a labyrinth or something. You had to, like the maze phase, for example, and Cyrus. But there's like very different approaches that you had to do that would take you to the next stage, rather than, oh, I'm in immunity phase now. I'm gonna pop a storm that if you're a 1%er, you can stand in it, and you know, then I'm gonna come down again, and you can one shot me, and then I'll go up again, and then go down again. And if you're not, you have to run away from it and then come back to me so I can come down because you're ready to fight whilst I'm screaming, "Why run?" And I mean, I think that would be a really cool way to implement different type of mechanics, which will be more intriguing or interesting to do, and maybe even cycle them so they don't get too repetitive. But like mechanics like that would allow you to have more of a skill base of handling the boss fights, such as the memory game. Memory game is one-shotting our stackers, as far as I know, right?
Yeah,
I'd be
mean, that's what it
saying,
does.
though,
It
like
just one-shots
GGG
you.
love to borrow. Sorry, let me just say this really quickly. GG
no,
love
go
to borrow stuff from other game genres, and when I think of like proper pinnacle boss design, I always think of Dark Souls. Like, yeah, it's hard and punishing, but it has a very clear way to go through it. Like, once you learn everything, you can get to the end.
But let me riddle you this, or not really riddle, but let me tell you. So I just got over playing Dark Souls, right? The thing about Dark Souls is that you have to learn the tells in order to know what mechanics you want to dodge, because they don't tell you what that tell's going to be, which is exactly kind of pose design philosophy. They don't tell you. You just kind of experience it and die. You know what I mean? You just kind of
Yeah.
you feel it and then you're dead. And like I think Poe wants to go back to this way of being like you learn these mechanics slowly and you may fail a lot and you may whatever, but like nobody got the time for that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody wants to spend the time to learn the boss mechanics and whatever. So and the one thing about Dark Souls is that their boss tells are incredibly clear. 99% of the time, it's your fault for death, not the game.
Mm.
And in Path of Exile's case, it's like 60% their fault because they have all these bullshit on death effects that like I don't think a single I'm just gonna rant slightly here. On death effects are bullshit. Okay, you got to find another way to try to kill me. I don't want even my Mirage Archer to fight when I'm dead. Like that's just stupid. You know what I'm saying? When I die and when they die, we should all just be dead. Like period. Okay? Like period. I'm so sick of these stupid. And not only that, there's so much stuff going on. You can't even see.
You can't even
Yeah,
see
you
it.
can't
That's
see
the
it. That's
problem.
where you're going with it.
You
Like
can't-
when you were talking about
Mhm.
tells,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, everybody talks about voice lines. That's the dialogue. The tell is the dialogue. I did Cirrus for the first
I don't
time in a
play
really
with
long
sound.
time, and
Yeah,
I
how
think
many
his
people
voice
not
cues are
playing with
off.
sound because it messes with their performance are
Yep.
not going to
Yeah.
hear
Or
voice
because you've heard it
lines.
for many years and you're like, I know what you're going to say to me. I'm aware, you know? But yeah, like those, and I understand why they do it. Like I get the reasoning for wanting on death effects. It's a way to add dodging and skill and like I should know this is here, but when you actually can't see it, there's no fucking skill anymore because you can't see. You know, like you're
Yeah.
actually. So I played
Also, I feel
Magic.
personally attacked by the memory
Oh.
game. Like, okay, you're just
Right?
gonna call me out for being a big dum dum who can't remember things that just happened. Thanks.
Yeah, it's like, I'm
Thanks.
sorry, I can't remember 6 things.
Yeah,
Okay.
6 things in a row that are just
mean,
like
I think
a
it's
up,
fine.
down, not
4.
down.
I
Thank
think
you.
Yeah.
I think memory game is fine till the last phase. Because it's fine when you're standing still.
Yeah,
You'll be
it's
like,
true.
okay,
I
now I
agree.
know where it is. Now I gotta do that. At the
Now you're
same
dodging
time,
the
I
beams and you
I
don't
gotta
notice
dodge
she
the beams.
started.
And the worst thing with the beams is that they don't just do a lot of damage. They prevent everything for 5
Yeah.
hours. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
impossible.
roughly 5 hours, yes.
The beams are possibly the dumbest thing. You're telling me I have to pass a memory game when these I can't. So I'm using ground slam, and I can't see when I'm slapping the ground that the beams are moving because ground slam has such a huge effect. You can't see the beams moving. Like that's not my fault at this point. You've designed something where my vision is obscured.
Try
And so
having
now-
50 minions running around.
Dude, I don't know
Yeah.
how you do it. I literally don't know how you guys see with minions. Like I don't
Yeah.
even know.
I
don't
did
even
the
you
fight
guys
with
blow
golems
my
recently
mind.
and was like, I can't tell where the end of the beam is because my golem is just like in the middle of it. So I don't know if like that's the spot that I need to be.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't
You have to
dash
play
through it
the-
either. You have to use flame dash because otherwise dash moves your
Yeah.
character through it.
Oh,
you
yeah,
have to
no,
use
I
flame
flame
dash
dash.
to
I'm a flame
teleport you there.
Yeah.
Oh, and dash has a
True.
locked distance, which is it will move you a certain distance away, and that distance is based on the level of the gem.
Of course. Of course.
But yeah.
It's very
And where
easy to
does it
double
say
click
that?
that shit as well.
You know where it says that? The wiki. You know? You know what I mean? Oh my god. I like Maven, but
I love the
Jesus.
fight. I honestly
Yeah.
love the fight. I was so happy that it was a good boss fight and it's challenging. But it is that last phase. I'm sitting
Yeah.
there trying to figure out where Maven just teleported to because she teleports every like 2 seconds. And I'm like, oh, you're on the other side. Okay, I'm going to go over there. And then I'm like, oh, wait, she's not over here. And then I look and I see that the memory game has started. And I'm like, I don't know if this has been going on for a while.
Why
Or-
instead of the memory game during the last phase, why not just like at different times one of the platforms becomes something you can't pass? So like she goes down
Yeah.
to 2.
Sick.
Or even
Or-
having the brain
So
and then it
explode
goes
thingy
like
instead.
red, and then or it's just green at first to let you know that you got to get the hell off of it, and then it goes to like its purplish whatever color, and then you have 2 platforms with coils to fight her on versus
Yeah.
That would be so good.
That would be cool. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Like Maven
Be-
is the only reason I
'cause it-
bothered going high gear on my character this league.
Yeah,
I
'cause
wasn't
it's-
going to do it before.
It's got that same area of denial like
Mhm.
mechanic to it that makes that like a cascading sort of like clusterfuck going into that, which seems to be the theme with boss designs lately. Is like
Yeah.
Shaper, normal, clusterfuck at the end. Uber Elder, normal, clusterfuck at the end. Cyrus, normal, clusterfuck at the end. And Maven.
Beard.
So we
I
know
even-
they're just gonna dunk us on the last phase anyway. So
Yeah.
The feared
If they even
encounter.
for the
Yeah.
memory game at the end, like you know how when the brain explodes, you get that little
Mhm.
platform on the side that you can go to.
Yeah.
Even in the last phase, if they did that, it's hard enough to get to from wherever you're at.
Yeah.
But like if you fail the memory game, which I am apparently big dumb because I just have a hard time remembering 6 things in a row. Like just having one platform somewhere that you have to be like panic run to, especially with the beams, like that would be, you know, you're not just consigned to log out or accept your fate.
I'm going to expose myself really quick. I can't discern left and right really fast, so whatever
Oh,
I'm
you mean
on,
up, down,
I'm
and
like,
not down?
yeah, not down. Not
Sound like my
down
girlfriend
is
driving a car. Take a left here, and
Listen.
she takes her hand off the wheel and be like, "Okay, that's left." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Let me drive."
It's not down, okay? So like I literally go like if I'm on the right side, it's like it's down, up, not down, which is the left one. And that's how my brain remembers it. But if I miss one slight I'm dead. I'm like, it's done. It's
I
over.
mean, the feared and Maven is the only reason I bothered to do a high, like really pushed gear character. Normally, I play 20 to 40 builds a league to avoid having one that I push hard, which I did in Harvest because we had the availability to it, right? And I did that again this league because of feared and Maven. I was like, fuck this mechanic. Like, no, I'm not dealing with this. I am one-shotting her, and that's it. I'm gonna be done with it. I'm not doing it. But if it wasn't for how much of a cluster shit that last phase is, I would not have done the gearing I would have done. Like I would have gone in with a standardized character that most people would have been able to achieve. And instead, now we have multiple
Yeah.
mirrors just so we can achieve that state, which is what which originally went into this topic with, to bypass all of these mechanics. Because it's just silly. And I agree with BK with this that the fundamental design of these bosses could have been made in a way where that is not promoted. Instead, you can have a standardized build of able to achieve it because there are other mechanics to deal with rather than
right, because there's always going to be
Yeah.
the people that want to just dunk on a person because they get the satisfaction of playing a game where they can do that. Like for some people, that is Path of Exile. I'm going to get ridiculous DPS numbers and crap on bosses because that is what I find fun. But when that
Yeah.
becomes the only way to handle a certain mechanic in a certain fight, is just not. That's when you should go back to yourselves as like boss creators and whatever and go like, wait, where did we go wrong here?
I think
Totally.
now this may be very pretentious of me, but I think I know where they went wrong. I think they added a lot of soft core and rages. Like there's a lot of or soft and rages when it goes soft core. Soft and rages when it's like the arena for Uber Elder gets full of inks. Or like for Maven, she puts down too many bubbles that you or not bubbles, but like floor
gravity
degens
wells?
you can't get rid of. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
things like that. And then you have all these builds that need time to DPS them, right? Like off meta builds that need a little extra time to DPS, but they can't
You get punished
handle-
for surviving.
Yeah, you get really like you can dodge, but you get
That's a good way to
incredibly
put it.
punished for
Hi.
surviving.
I've been
Right.
I've been
Like, a
sitting
lot
on
of boss
that for like
fights
an
are
hour,
DPS
by the way.
checks.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be like that personally, right? It should be about your like remember Ubrad Ziri, one of her bigger like the reason why she's so strong regardless is because of her penetrate and whatever, but you can survive if you dodge. Like you can literally, but in Maven, she puts down so many puddles. Uber Elder puts down so many puddles. Cirrus is actually kind of decent for that. Like unless you walk out of his area, he's not really going to punish you for how long you spend in the fight. He's just kind of annoying. Like that's
Yeah,
really
like
his
one of the
thing.
best tips I have for players regarding Cyrus is actually to take off all the watchstones and go in with no damage and just
Yeah,
practice surviving every
absolutely.
phase. And if you can
Exactly.
survive all the phases without your damage being dealt to him, then you can
Yeah.
do it on Awakener 9 as well.
They literally don't even tell you take off all your watchstones to try it easier. So people go in there with 5, like a Cirrus 5, and then they get dunked on and they're like, yo, I suck. Or like my damage
But
sucks or something, right? Like, but it's not actually them. It's just the fact that they don't know the fight and they don't know how to practice it. And then they decided,
Knowledge
let's
is
just put
power.
Cirrus.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
just put Cirrus in the
the other
map.
thing is with the cycle, with the entire Conqueror system, relying on a
Mhm.
cycle, and once you get past your default 3 conks and then cycling
Yeah.
through, basically once you unlock your first
Yeah.
Cirrus, like you get punished for fucking that one up because setting up a new one is like you can't just.
Terrible.
uh,
It hurts.
And isn't the
Right,
same
Fury is
issue
literally the best
kind
boss
of
fight in the
exists with
entire game.
Maven, but it's tradable, right?
I like
'Cause you can
Uber
get
Elder.
invitations.
Yeah.
I feel like
It should be
Uber is a
retossed.
DPS check, and a Siri and Uber Siri can actually be done by learning the fight and dodging. You don't
That's true. You
need.
do have to kill I almost said squinky. The squids with inkies.
Yeah, it's like as I mentioned before, you need 250, 300,000 shape DPS to kill it before it drops a fistball. So there's a little bit of a DPS check on Uber Elder, but other than that, it's
Yeah.
fun. But the DPS check is very low. It's like 250, 300,000.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
not
easy
too
to
bad.
achieve. No, you can do that with a Tabulous. It's not that bad, but it's again, you have to learn the boss fight. And it is getting a bit chaotic at the end phase.
Oh, but I love the chaos.
Yeah, I think
Because it doesn't feel like I'm going to fail because of the
Chaos.
mechanics that are happening to me. It feels like I'm going to fail because I fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. So Uber is a
Yeah.
really good fight in that sense, and like I think it's really good. Whereas Siri, I think Siri herself is really good in that sense. She has a couple of hidden mechanics, such as the 2% generic reflect she has outside of the clone phases that some builds have problems with. I think that's really neat to have. But the problem with Uber Siri, at least back when she was released, we didn't have all the ascendancies. We didn't even have masters back then. It was hard because the power creeping wasn't as pressing. But the hardest part of Uber Siri was what's her face? Alai, she's called the. I have to keep in mind that I'm sitting here with 4 ladies. The breast lady of the
Who?
trio fight.
The titty bitch?
That's
Oh.
her.
Yes,
That's
yes.
her. Because her rain of arrow is terrible to deal with.
Yeah.
And that
you gotta
becomes a
kill her
DPS
first.
check.
Ooh.
I'm still dying about squinkies.
That's happening now. Squinkies is a thing.
I'm gonna start calling it that.
Okay, I'll relax.
Squinkies and breast lady.
Titty
It's
bitch.
titty
Tell
bitch.
them-
Titty
That's
bitch.
the official.
I've heard
No,
Vel
don't
say it so
worry.
many
Beautiful
times that
ladies.
it doesn't phase me anymore.
I mean, I feel like the one thing, if any Poe players can come together on anything, is calling those tentacle ladies titty bitches.
We
So-
unite
Yes.
under the banner that is Titty Bitches.
Titty bitch banner, which is actually mainly tentacles, but it doesn't matter because she's tits out,
Yeah, yeah.
They do kind of
It's
shimmy
more, you
though.
know, more
They
folk.
do shimmy.
I
Yeah,
while
they
they're
do.
doing
They
it.
do.
Yeah.
They shimmy when they're doing the.
How's your dick stacking build, Velyna? Just how
Oh,
does
you
that
know
do
what? I'm
versus
stacking a lot of dicks, let me tell you. Stacking like 1,600 dicks, you're like, that's too many. Enough.
Okay, so to reel it back to the topic that I kind of distracted us away from, because I
Yeah.
feel like the boss design analysis is really significant to the changes in Harvest because they pressure us to play a certain way, and Harvest was a way to deal with that.
Yes.
Going back to the notion of item progression, the fact that we don't have progression anymore is probably one of the very important things that we need to revisit because it didn't get enough time. So does anybody want to say anything in regards to the fact that Harvest basically erased the idea that of item progression, that we just went from like, this is our leveling gear to boom, I can clear the content immediately now?
Before Harvest, I did the same thing. I would buy all the end game gear for the character level with whatever
True.
and then swap it over. So I don't know.
I had to actively stop doing that to enjoy leagues more. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was last year, maybe a little bit before that, when I realized that I was just like not having as much fun anymore. And it was actually one of the videos that like Mathil I think put out about like why don't I burn out even though I stream this like all the fucking time. And one of his like big advice things was just to basically slow down, to like stop just buying the gear and play the character through its normal progression and blah blah blah. But it was actually really good advice because that's what I started doing, was like I would save like kind of like good enough ish rares and
Yeah.
then like kind of have like a collection of those, and then when my character hit maps I'd put those on and then try to like actually go through like whites to yellows to reds and then figure out what I needed versus going in there and being like, this is the best stuff, so I'm just gonna put this on.
I'm not gonna
It's a
lie.
really good suggestion. I
I
think
miss
that the
that.
most enjoyable time of a league is the league start, because
Yes,
it's not there. Like I
One of
can't, even if I wanted to, I can't.
we
It
all
doesn't
can't
feel it,
exist.
right?
you can't even replicate it because you can
No.
never have anything but red conquerors once you fight them all the way up to red for the first time. Like there's no
Yeah.
way to test your progression on a newer character with this current in game.
Yeah.
At one point, like I feel I like the point when I hit level 80, 82, and I can just throw it all on and be like, oh, I'm super powerful. But the time before then, like the just purely there's a feel of this game, and like as you guys know, I absolutely love the game. But it just kind of dissipated when you don't have to put in any effort to really think about what you're doing.
You don't have to try.
Right? Like I've tried I think I said earlier, I was trying Magic Legends, and like it has this randomized card system, and I was thinking about, okay, well, I got these two cards, I'm going to use this one next, and then I'm going to try it, like, and then this next card might pop up and then I could use this one. I enjoyed the level of thought I had to put into it, which I feel like okay, this is why I'm slightly addicted to the gauntlet, is because I feel like I had a level of thought that I haven't had in a long time. You know what I mean? Like I've just been kind of empty brained, but I had to actually think about it in the gauntlet. So it was like it was a really nice change. But the thing about Path is that they keep upping the difficulty and nerfing us to the point where like I still don't think that we're meeting in the middle there. You know what I mean? Like they've upgraded, now we have Searson maps, but they've nerfed us, and now it just kind of sucks. You know?
I mean, what you're
Don't
saying is
worry,
why I
PoE
like
2 will
summoner
fix
builds.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
like
like I like summoner builds mostly. Nowadays I play mostly non-summoner builds, but the reason I love summoners is because there are so many other things I have to do in a fight rather than mobility skill, hold down right click, mobility skill, hold down right click. When I play minion builds, before you get the trigger, the progression into the trigger craft and everything, that means desecrate, offerings. There's convocation, there's curses, there's EE
Yeah.
approach, and mobility skill, dodging, moving, and moving your minions, and thinking of different aspects to the game other than myself, and
Yeah.
which makes the game more enjoyable and more actively game played rather than smacking in a coal slinger. I'm going to right click and automate everything I have. Now, the summoner builds turns into that in the higher budgets, anyways, but it's just another layer of enjoyment for me, which is why I'm
I'm
so
in
hooked
that
on summoner builds.
example, and I don't appreciate it, but because I'm playing a summoner right now.
Yeah,
But
the-
yeah,
This podcast as Ghazzy accidentally calls out all the members of Baited Expectation.
But yeah. No, I completely agree. Like,
what are you
this,
talking about?
like-
I'm playing like a several skill right now.
Yeah, there are a couple. Hydrosphere
To be
introduced
fair, I'm
another
safe
one
in
as
this.
well. So it was really cool. I like those. ED Contagion was one of the first ones that were really good for that purpose, where there was a combination of skills you had to use to fully go in deep with the actual skill itself. And I really like those kind of builds. And I think that's
Okay,
really fun.
my two-head brain couldn't handle ED contagion because I'm like, which one am I hitting first? And then blight, hello.
Oh, it took me a while to like get it right, and then when you don't play it for a bit and then you play it again, you're like, I'm not.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, exactly. Pie. You're like, I feel like you're just making fun of me, game.
The
But that's what Magic Legends
replayability,
promoted.
the whole
Yeah.
concept of PoE is to be replayed, but the entire end game is not replayable. And therefore it forces that item progression skip, because if you get there and you're 70 and you can't wear end game gear, then you really won't be able to do anything that's there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Something I think a lot of people are neglecting or forgetting is that Path of Exile is, in its core, an ARPG game, which is the very definition of insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting to drop an Exalted or a Mirror. That's basically what it is, right? And Path of Exile or GGG is doing a very good job in hiding the fact that it is an ARPG game, which is why it's so successful from my perspective. They're hiding it by having so many different mechanics that it's so convoluted that it's absolutely insane. Like, there's so much to do that you're forgetting that you're doing the same thing over and over again. And the times where people are burning out is when they are stopping to do these things that are available and they're only doing the meta. And I think that is a big problem, where there is always one, two, or maybe three things that are so dominantly better than everything else that it diminishes the idea of running other things, which is helping the whole idea of hiding the fact that it's an ARPG game, which Path of Exile has done a very good job with up until recently.
Yeah. No, I have one suggestion though. If GTG is listening to me, please get Maven out of the middle of my boss fights. For the love of God, get her stupid floaty body out of the side.
She obscures so much visual stuff. Oh, it's so annoying.
There's so much happening, and then she's like, what if I just obscure 30% of your vision? I'm like,
that's
Screen
actually
clutter
how
the
she's making it
boss.
harder. Yeah.
Like, I'm trying really hard to fight two shapers, and then you're just floating right there.
I'm surprised you mentioned that and not Cirrus popping Rain of Stars in the next to some bearers and a bunch of other shit in a map.
I
Cirrus
can see
in a ritual. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Fucking
You
Cirrus.
just hear if you don't have sound on, you just see the green text
Obliteration.
pop up. Yeah, obliteration or die. Rain of Stars. You're like, fuck. I gotta log now.
and you're in like a waste pool, so you can't actually move from this little corridor that you're.
You're in like a hallway.
I'm dead.
No, Cirrus inside in general is just fucking terrifying.
Okay,
I'm just like, I run far away from wherever he is. That's all I do.
I thought it was only one when it came to the floaty, but I have another thing. Can you, like, what's the point of Cirrus being there? To teach people? They don't care. He just sucks.
I think
he
it
just
is.
sucks.
It's an attempt at boss scaffolding, which is this concept in boss design where they try and draw things out, and I guess that's their answer to everyone complaining that they stacked literally fucking everything into the last phase of Sires. That they're like, oh, we'll just take the most annoying part and then we'll put it in maps, and then we're gonna turbocharge rares with that, and then close you into small spaces. How does that sound? Does that sound fun? Do you want to do that?
Did you guys learn a lot about the boss?
The theme of the turbocharged rares bothers me so much because Cirrus is always alone in his fights. In fact, one of my biggest issues with the Conqueror introduction in 3.9 was that everyone except for Drox is by themselves. No one has adds of flasks, life in plenty of other things as well. Right. If you have no ads, like why do they all of a sudden have ads in maps? But why does Cirrus have ads in maps? Because he's never had, like, I just don't get it. Man,
I don't know. I can manufacture a bullshit answer for you. If it would help your immersion.
If you want to
Please,
tell me
I
the
need
bullshit
it.
answer, the issue I have is that a lot of the reason why they won't do quality of life choices, like the map device change, was specifically held up because it was thematically inappropriate to how the game is designed. Like
Oh, and
having
Cirrus doesn't
masters
have
on maps.
friends anymore, so he should be alone.
He should never have friends to begin with. Look at how trash he is. I'm sorry.
But the point is,
I want to hear the
First of all,
reason.
attack.
his
Tax is
biggest reason for
flying.
not doing something is to do with lore. Like, why do they all of a sudden take the lore and go, like, in?
No,
It's inconsistent.
I feel your frustration, Pi. Like it's.
Wait, BK, tell us the reason.
Yeah, go
Yeah, I'm
because.
curious as well.
Well, your bullshit Band-Aid lore patch reason could be something along the lines of like they chose him or Xana chose him to be like the leader, right? So therefore he is trying to reassemble folks of his worthiness. So he like chooses to empower certain people to build his new team.
Ah.
I mean, he should choose me. I'm pretty good. Like, have you seen my damage? I use harvest.
I
Wait,
high
wait,
five
wait,
the
wait,
ground
wait,
and
wait.
it explodes. Clearly, I'm your choice.
Wait a minute now. Vel, didn't you die 10 times in the gauntlet?
How dare you, Lord? Hey.
I only died 9 times, mind you.
Technically, since I didn't do it, I died 0, so I think that I win.
There we have
The
it.
big
KCN
brain
wins.
idea of how to like be the best is to not do it.
I've been assaulted by these comments. I feel it. It's like punches in the face.
Do you feel attacked?
Only a little bit because like I kind of did it to myself. So it was like, stop hating yourself. Stop hating. You know what I
Are you
mean?
doing the bike spoke meme again?
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
Let me just-
oh, I should be with
Oh.
Cirrus. Why are you using my feelings against?
Hey, I killed a conqueror. I'll take it's a PB.
Uh-huh. Which conqueror?
It was Baron, but
No, he's crazy scary.
it's actually really
No,
hard.
he's good.
Stupid crazy. In
But let
Gauntlet.
me tell you guys, okay? I was gonna keep this a secret, but now I'm gonna expose myself. I may or may not have found 799 face breakers that I may or may not have died on a ritual because of allies cannot die redeemer mobs. Maybe. I don't know. It happened like 5 days ago. I don't remember.
I mean, that sounds like a good problem to have. You don't have a problem where you have a guild stash where people put Fairgrave's Tycorns in every freaking day. I'm trying to use it to stash some shit with the officers, and I open the tab. It's filled. I clean it out. The day after, it's filled. Someone is buying Fairgraves to shove them in there. Where are they coming from?
And they can't even control click. You can't
No,
either, so
they
that's
can't.
manual labor.
Yes.
Crap.
Someone's buying them up on the market. They were going for 2 C a piece not long ago. 2 chaos.
So you
Like the
died.
market price is driven up just for this purpose of annoying you.
Clearly.
Thank you, the guild, for being so trolly. I mean, you're getting a lot of alks, Ghazzy. You know,
Yeah.
alk.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's
No,
so
I'm
much.
deleting them. I'm not taking them to my inventory to move to a vendor to sell them. No, I'm deleting them, and the stash is filled right after. I've given up. I'm giving up. And
Well,
now
if you
I'm
just leave
placing
them
the
there,
ones
they
that are
can't
in
put
there, so
more in.
there's like 2 rows of 2 slots open. So there's some spots in that tab at least.
If people need to put stuff in the stash, they just take one out to do it, right? Like, just leave them there and consider that the tab is empty until they need to put something in there, and then you just remove
Yeah,
the
it's just a
Fairgraves.
backdrop.
I just wish they
Okay,
would let
all
us
right.
control click it.
This has been like a lot of the topic of discussion has flowed very naturally, so we didn't go through my questions, but we did cover most of them. So I want to say, like, let's finish off the harvest topic so that we can talk a little bit about Ultimatum League. Closing statements from everyone on the Harvest Manifesto, please. Let's start with BK.
For the most part, I largely agree with the way that they changed Harvest as far as bringing it back to a power level that makes other crafting systems at least an alternative. I still don't think it's very competitive, and I think the balance power of gear is in a somewhat more acceptable state, and that's probably not a very popular opinion. But I think that the game should be balanced through multiple objectives rather than just one, and gear should never be the answer to whether or not in game is achievable. It's up to us to, I guess, put pressure on them to do more skill rework, revisits, and other such things. But I mean, as far as Harvest as a standalone mechanic, I don't think like the nerfs are unjustified. I think that's what they should have introduced in the first place.
Yes.
Because it's
Vel?
honestly the Harvest I
Uh,
expected to see, not the one that they gave us, and then they gave us the one I expected to see. So I don't know anymore.
Vel, you look like you were gonna say something.
I was just gonna say that Harvest is gonna be just fine, guys. It's okay. Guess what? GGG likes to put in a ton of overpowered shit constantly. Remember cluster tools? They didn't even come out that long ago. They're so good. Like we're gonna be fine. It's it's sad. I admit, as somebody who likes targeted nulls, because who the hell wants 2.1 life regen on anything? Like, ooh, 2 when I have 7,000. Like that's not fun. But still, it's gonna be just fine. And I don't know what ultimatum's about, but I imagine it's gonna be very poggies. So that's all I have to say.
Noodle?
I am very similar to BK in that I didn't expect them to implement it with this much power in the first place, so I think that the nerfs are fine because I was more shocked that they had it this powerful to begin with. I do understand people's frustration because it's having this good thing that you had taken away twice now. So it makes sense, and I think that a lot of their issues, at least my perspective of their issues, was not what they're doing with the nerfs, but the tone, the sort of flippant and meme-worthy tone in which they went about it to touch on trade, to say things like "close your eyes and slam." The excitement of that just really was unfortunately worded and maybe a little bit out of touch with what's going on. But I do personally suspect that these nerfs are maybe heralding other changes to come, be that item acquisition, like maybe reducing the mod pool to, or even just drop them out, hopefully, to have better items drop, or maybe there's going to be some sort of new crafting that's going to be introduced that would be maybe not completely fixing the pain from getting your
Yeah.
harvest taken away a second time, but would justify this nerf.
I ain't gonna lie though. I've closed my eyes, crossed my fingers, knocked my wood, and slammed so many times. I do it
I only exalt at the
even
end of League when
yesterday.
I'm just bored and I'm just like, I don't
Yeah.
need this money.
No, I love it. Like, cause
I-
I am a gambler at heart.
You
So for
and
me,
Badger
it's
both love this. I don't
perfect,
get
right?
it.
Listen,
I don't
it's
get
the
it.
risk. When I win, my nippos are feeling amazing.
God,
Like-
you're such a gambler. I don't get
I
it.
love. Listen, anybody who understands gambling, they feel it. Okay, they feel it.
Maybe it's
Gassy,
good that I
they
don't
feel it,
understand.
though, okay, they're like really into it. Trust me. Trust me. When
No, we've had several episodes
Just
of
listening
like
to you makes me feel
understanding that
dirty.
what?
sorry. I'm sorry, but that's how excited I get about gambling. Okay. I'm sorry. Uh, it's just like it's so good when I win. Now, have I maybe slammed 6 glove no, actually 8 gloves and not got intimidate instead of 5 on nerves? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. I need intimidate. I keep getting unnerved. Imma keep doing it though, okay? I literally have 4 pairs of gloves. I'm not even playing the character anymore. Imma slam every one of them. is gonna happen. I'm gonna get that intimidate, and I'm gonna feel real good about it.
Here's the
Okay, we've
solution.
talked about
Smack
gambling
in a
before on the
golem and put
podcast.
woke melee fist on it.
How could you say this to me? I
That's
just
what I
want
do to get intimidate.
We've talked about
really
gambling
good. It's
before on the
really-
podcast, and we got to say, I would rather you gambled in PoE than gambled IRL. Okay, so let's all
Exactly. All I
see.
waste
This is healthy,
time.
closed environment gambling where like real money doesn't. You know, you don't get into
I'm just
financial
wasting
debt.
My time, my energy, my willpower, but eventually I win.
I think we're gonna have a serious talk with Vel after this podcast.
Nah, we're fine.
The post-baited expectation show gonna be good. All right.
But my opinion on the closing thoughts on Harvest is basically the whole approach of what I said before. The problem is not what they did, because I think that the nerfs are great, because they couldn't find any middle ground that would cater to a vast majority. So whatever they did, they would get shit on. The problem is how they did it. That we got full power, then stripped it away, and that they then try to relate to their player base in the worst way possible. They should just leave that shit to Bex. Let her deal with it. She knows the player base better than anyone, and it wouldn't have been this terrible. And I mean, I know most of us would agree with that. I think that if they just let her do it, they wouldn't have this backlash, because a lot of it is spawned with how they did it, not what they did.
Yes.
Or just be professional.
Yes.
Question mark?
Yes.
On the internet, Brittle, you're asking too much.
That's also true. But no, I think that the changes are good. I think from other discussions I've had, like with SK Cloud and whatnot, it's and what Casey had said, it's a lot about future-proofing the game. There are other more pressing issues than what we see with Harvest. Harvest is emphasizing on progression issues as well as itemization issues, and there are other things that needs to be dealt with, and those two are very big in that sense.
Agreed.
Progression and itemizations, and Harvest is hurting that a lot, and these nerves is not enough to even to improve that a lot, but it does a little bit to it.
Guys.
So that's my closing thoughts on Harvest.
Don't forget, they're gonna add shapeshifting, and we don't even know what the hell that's gonna entail. Like, we don't actually know.
Oh,
No,
in
what,
PoE
sorry?
too?
A shapeshifting, they plan to add it.
Oh yeah.
You don't really know what it entails. Who the hell know? They could have the most insane ideas for every time they add a league. People are like, Vel, what do you think the league's gonna be? And I'm like, I don't know. And then they add something. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, my brain can't even comprehend the plan they have for the game. You know, like, I'm just along for the ride, and I'm like, I wish I was this creative, because then I could actually say, oh, maybe they would add. I have no idea what they're gonna add at this point. It's always a surprise. It's fun, right? But it's just like they got long time plans. Long.
I think that PoE 2 is too far down the road to be something people should hang their hopes in.
But
Okay.
it'll fix everything. It's like the but it's got electrolytes argument now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
instead of arguing about what plants crave, we're like, but PoE2 fixed everything.
No.
I think if anything, well, they said that PoE 1 and PoE 2 are gonna converge on the same end game, right? That's what they said. So obviously they're gonna add updates that they expect for PoE 2 in PoE 1. But still, what they have planned for us, who actually knows? I never saw Synthesis as a league. I never saw Heist as an actual, like, a rogue harbor where I go in and open doors and get, like, I just didn't see it happening, right? Like, I never saw it coming. So I don't know.
I got a boat on the wallpaper. There was a boat on the wallpaper. That kind of got me hyped. Then I saw Ice League, and I was like, fuck this.
I swear they just bait you now, Ghazzy, with the boats.
Yes, I had a private message with Bex, and I asked her if this was the boat league, because I have big plans for my boat league. It's inevitably going to happen. She said, and I quote,
Yeah.
if you were to close your eyes and slam for a boat league, this would be the week.
She's baiting you.
And we get this shit? No boats? For real.
Oh my god, Bex, you're a genius. Yeah, no, they just always blow my mind.
All right, let's talk about
Like, no matter
Ultimatum.
what.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, Pi, what was your closing comments on Harvest?
I don't know if I was going to get around to saying it. Okay, I'll talk
Yeah.
about my closing comments on Harvest and then we'll talk about Ultimatum League. It's just that it was naturally flowing that way. I was going to just skip me. I think that Harvest shouldn't have been implemented as it was, so I am not surprised by the choices that they're making, but I am surprised by the way that they convey this information to us.
Yeah.
I do have some tinfoil hat theory in that I think the Close Your Eyes and Exalt was a bait. Like, they wanted to distract us from the messaging about what was happening to Harvest, and they definitely drew a lot of attention with that. It's certainly a marketing strategy.
You think?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
like you actually
I'm
really think
just-
it's a marketing strategy?
I thought
'Cause
it was just more harkening back to a PoE that existed 4 years ago.
do you
When you
remember
used to
Chris?
actually do that, like I remember exalting a ring, hoping for some sort of usable suffix, stats or otherwise. Like I remember doing that years ago.
Do you think
And,
like
I think it's a genuine feeling. I don't think that it's not a
Remember
genuine
Chris?
feeling, because if it wasn't a genuine feeling, it wouldn't have had this reaction. The issue is that it's a genuine feeling in isolation with the context of the current game.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so maybe it wasn't their intention to draw ire from it, like hatred and derisive comments, but in the context of the last year with this game and this player base and this current world climate, it had to have been considered. There is no way that I picture internally in my head canon is like Bex like dragging someone on the arm saying like kicking and screaming like you can't fucking publish that.
And Chris
Like-
was like, Control
Unless you
VP?
want it to go this way.
Yeah.
That's my point. Like you can't
Oh.
actually say that unless you want it to happen this way. And then this is the conversation
Guys.
that's been coming from it.
Yeah,
I
and
have
no one else could actually say that but him. And I mean, it's not like he got away with it, but there's nobody there that can just drop that kind of line
Yeah.
on the rest of us but him.
remind
He's
you
the
guys
same-
about
it's-
who Chris Wilson is. He's the guy who says Talisman was his favorite league. And he's the guy who got an Exalt in hardcore, died before he can use it, but was really excited to slam his weapon with the Exalt that he had. Okay?
Yeah.
Before he died in hardcore, but he didn't have the craft for it, but he was really hyped to get to the point where he had the craft to slam the Exalt. You know, the whole song and dance we don't like to do. He was into it. Okay, like he was very into that song and dance. So like he
Could
has
you
a
do that
very-
dance again for me?
Yeah, I missed it.
Oh, there we go.
this one, right?
Okay.
The song and dance
Nice.
where he's like, I'm gonna get the craft and then I'm gonna exalt it. And it's gonna feel real good, and I'm gonna have the best weapon, right? Like, like, and then he died
Uh-huh.
before it could happen, and that really is unfortunate. But he like enjoyed that, and he's not the now he probably is actually the like last word of the thing, but he's not like the last. Like, there's a lot of opinions in the game, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of
It
opinions
evokes
that
a
people like.
nostalgic feeling, but I agree with Pi that
Yes.
in the context, that's not the feeling that many people are familiar with
It's
or
Or
Old.
really wanting, yeah.
No
Yeah.
offense to Christopher Wilson. It's just a bit of a boomer take now
Yeah.
in this game. I listen, Chris, I love you, except the fact that Talisman was trash league. We'll talk about it later. Okay. But really, this is a very old take
Yeah, we get
that
that.
I feel we don't. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so he has this idea of like, when I feel that when he says exalt, slam, close your eyes, he fucking means that, because
Mhm.
I do the same shit.
I do want to
So I
Yeah,
go
no,
back
we
to
know,
my
we know.
tinfoil hat
I
theory.
know.
Girl,
so like,
we know.
I know,
Girl, we
I
know.
know.
We
I
heard.
know. I enjoy it. So like I get where he's at with like, I don't necessarily think it was just necessarily a bad choice of words. I think that he legitimately enjoys the feeling
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
I
it's
enjoy
the
feeling.
the
he
gamble.
enjoys the feeling.
And that the whole
Yeah,
RNG
yeah.
idea of
There's an element of gamble. There's the ARPG element of like you get what you get. Maybe you can work this out. Maybe it ruins your weapon. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of chance in ARPGs. Period.
yeah.
Like
I mean, I don't mean to be rude to you, Val, but hear me out on this one.
bad Ghazzy.
Yeah, I know. You know, the idea of slamming something. If
Yeah.
you're looking at again, I'm not trying to be rude. If you're looking at the people that are crafting with an actual profitable outcome or something that is worth doing, with the actual Exalt Slam, it is very limited in today's state. And the people that are doing higher end crafts for many years, the last time most of us actually bother slamming things is what KCN said before, when we're bored and have too much currency because of a certain somebody fucked over the whole giveaway thing, so that PoE enforced the TOS, we're not allowed to do giveaways, then instead we're just slamming things. But before that, people slam things for actual outcomes, like BK said with remembering that. That was 5 years ago. We
Yeah.
slammed things 5 years ago.
How dare you call me out on my time dilation loss? Like, I don't know. Okay.
Well, I mean, after that, we stopped slamming because it was never worth it.
At what point in
Unless you had
time?
excessive currency.
You're
You
both
still-
right.
I'm SSF private league. Like I still slam some stuff, or accidentally
SSF is a
craft
different
things with an
aspect
Exalt.
with a very small it's a minority of player base
I
playing
know.
Soul Self-Found.
I know you have to impose restrictions on yourself for that kind of nostalgic feeling to be relevant. That's my point.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
my final take on Harvest is that the changes, they're not in isolation. There's going to be something else that comes along. Bex has said it herself and replied to Taki that, if Harvest was designed to be done as a leveling thing, but then wasn't implemented as a leveling thing, the reason being because something else would come along and replace that. In this case, Ritual still gave us good items while we're leveling and then got shit as we got higher up. Sort of.
Really did.
Yes.
True.
Like, there is the new league always hits on the coast. So the new league is going to give you whatever Harvest was supposed to be giving you on the coast, theoretically. That's they're going to try to equivalent thing there. Let's talk about Ultimatum though, because it is that's the point, right? Harvest is being nerfed because something else is coming. Noodle.
Question.
Noodle, you are calculating. What do you see?
I am very excited, and I will tell you why. I'm like 99% sure that this league is going to be going back to, if not at the very least, information about the Vol civilization, going back to a historic figure in the Vol civilization. The Red Pyramid, dead giveaway. They're not just going to introduce something new that's like, it's red themed and also pyramids, and be like, it's totally not the Vol. I mean, that's such a staple of PoE. What? I will fight you. Get over here. But also with the gold statue at the beginning that looks like a chaos or Vol orb head. Those statuettes look just like all of the golden idols that we get in Heist that are all representative of Vol figures. So pretty clearly. But then they show a man with
Always
armor.
a man involved.
It is a man. And
unless they're
his
Eldritch,
armor looks very
new Eldritch horrors.
ancient. No. No, I'm pretty sure there's a chance that it's a new person similar to Alva who has Vol bloodline, but more likely it is someone who is fully Vol. And I truly believe that it could be Doriani. Here's why. I think that this is going to be a crafting league. I think Ultimatum has to do with choices. And I'm getting into tinfoil hat, but I'm very excited. I'm sorry if I'm talking a little bit fast, but I'm super excited. Here's what I think. So you know how there's like a pillar that rises up and it looks like a circle? A lot of people are saying it looks like Ritual. I think you're going to get a base item and you are going to get 2 choices to craft on it and basically be able to do a successful craft by completing whatever that instance is. And then you're going to have multiple of those with each choice, your ultimatum of crafting, then branching off into only 2 more choices where you don't know what the other options would have been to craft an item through doing this. I mean, it's pretty clearly a choice. I think it's also Doriani because of the red and blue themes, if you think of Doriani's Machinarium. And just generally like the items associated with Doriani and the way that it looks. Also, to be completely clear, I just want to know more about Doriani so bad. He's like the root of all of Malachi's understanding about the beast and his desire to go into Cataclysm. And like, why did he want to go to the beast? Was it because he was working for Atziri to find eternal life, or is it just because he's a crazy person who wants to find like more information about thaumaturgy and all of that? Like, I need to know. I want it to. It might not be Doriani. If it's not, I might cry. Not really, but kind of. A little bit inside. I'm so
What
excited.
if?
I think it is.
I'm already tearing up here because I have been dead certain that if I don't get my goddamn boat, I'm gonna hate the league. But what you're saying is making me very hyped. So
I'm
please,
so excited.
shush, please. I
What if you
hate the
get a
league.
boat?
There's no boat.
What if you get a boat and the rest of it?
If I get a boat, I don't care. If a boat takes me to the island with this pyramid, I'll be happy. That's
Wait,
all I need. I just want
Ghazzy-
a boat.
What was your reaction when we got Act 6 and Act 7 with the boats and stuff?
Oh,
Like-
that was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was more excited about the boats than anything. I was like, I don't care about the content. I just, there's a boat. Come to Papa.
The pirate guy, I'm very in.
To be fair, Peely too looks like it has a boat from the trailer they showed us. Are you stoked about that boat, future boat?
Mhm.
Slide into my DMs later, Vel. It's all right.
Please send Ghazzy pictures of boats.
Yeah. really
I love
into
boats.
it.
Just send them. It's fine.
I used to be a
But yeah,
sailing
I'm so
instructor.
excited. I
Tell
hope that
me.
it's not like incursion. I hope that it's some kind of crafting thing, but I don't really know. The only thing I can say for certain is it has to be related to the vault. There's no other reason why they put a red pyramid.
I do think
Lord
those
Master,
little
what's with the
plinths
red
have
and blue?
items on the top of them. It just makes me feel like it's crafting related too.
Yeah, totally.
It would make sense. And what I really like about what Casey said about the Doriani part with the Vol part, like for me, since Atziri was the catalyzer, I always say the name, it was the trigger for me to really enjoy Path of Exile with Atziri and everything surrounding that that aspect of the game. Reintroducing that in a new way is. I don't want to say that it satisfies my nipples like Vel was talking about before, but it gets me happy.
You reminded me of another important piece of evidence. Sorry, I totally geeked out.
We have to
yeah.
Didn't
rename
mean to
this
interrupt your
podcast
happiness.
phrasing.
Happy.
The
Happened.
figure, this figure that I think is Doriani, is standing in front of stairs that look identical to the stairs that go up to Atziri's chamber.
Yes.
Sorry,
On
I get
point
so
as well.
hyped that I'm like,
Question, Lore Master, does Atziri have a rival in the Vol? Is it Doriani?
no,
I don't know.
Doriani is hired by Atziri to figure out
Yeah,
the
okay,
eternal
so-
life of Zerfi because Zerfi died before Atziri and nobody figured out how he did his, he apparently lived for like 200 years and
First of all, that's how you say
died.
that name, Pog. Second of all, I
Zerfi?
didn't know. Yeah, I didn't.
Oh,
I had
yeah.
no idea. Thought it was.
Oh, girl, I'm always here.
Say this name because I've just been saying it wrong for like 5 years now. But also, so you think it's Doriani? What do you think the red blue is about? Like I know
The
I see.
choice. Red pill,
Like,
blue pill, matrix,
what is
his
blue,
mechanisms, he makes things.
To me, Vol.
What about the
equals,
colorblind
like,
players?
Blood corruption. And so, what?
What about them? Sorry, I don't mean.
I'm so sorry.
No, keep it up.
Imagine if it was
I
red
think the
green.
red blue
You'd just
just
be
indicates
really
choice.
fucked.
Well, I wonder what the punishment is for ultimatum. I have an
I love this.
ultimatum, so
Yeah.
what-
Yeah, Ultimatum needs to have something really negative to it, right? Not just like you
Not
presented
always.
like the idea
Okay.
of
Can
oh,
I
you fail, you
can
don't
I
get
put my
that.
therapist cap on?
It's
Yes.
Okay.
it's
So
harvest slams, but 1/4 of the time it deletes the entire item.
Harvest balls.
Yeah,
Yes,
you gotta have
let's go.
RNG, otherwise it's not Path of Exile, right?
It's not Vol either without poofing something. So boom, league solved.
Bam. Perfect.
okay.
Oh, you made Vel
Oh,
way too
man.
excited with that. What were you
Therapist
saying,
cap.
Pi? You
The
putting your therapist hat on?
so here's the thing: like a healthy, functional adult with like
Yeah.
regulated emotions and everything sets boundaries.
Which none of
What?
us are.
If you
What is that?
We
Let
are
me-
them.
Shh, just listen. So if
I'm
you're
sorry.
a healthy, well-adjusted human, that means you've dealt with your trauma and you figure out how to deal with your shit, right? You have boundaries, and if somebody crosses those boundaries, then this is how you manage that, by saying like, I'm no longer going to let you cross those boundaries by X, right?
Yeah.
The unhealthy version of that is an ultimatum. Ultimatums is when, like, if you don't do this, then this, right? That's
Yes.
that's how people talk about it. It is emotionally manipulative. It's trying to
Terrible.
make somebody else's behavior change instead of looking after
think
yourself. So when I think
it's
of a league
used
called
that way.
Ultimatum, I'm wondering what PoE wants to manipulate me into doing.
Well, the actual core of the word ultimatum is a set of choices, 2 choices in which one of the options is unavoidable, as in if you choose one, you cannot have the other. And
Yes,
usually that is
understand that.
used in colloquial terms to have an unhealthy choice, like you can never talk to your friend again, or I'm going to leave you. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those where something is going to happen. There's no walking away. There's no third option. It's often used in an unhealthy way, but at its core, it just means you have these 2 choices and one of them will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know. You can add a specific modifier where the item becomes corrupted. I mean, there's
That's
so
what I
many
think
different.
is basically you're adding things and then it's stuck that way forever. Like that mod or that item is corrupted afterward. Yeah.
Oh,
Which would
like
fit with Vol themes.
so, like fracturing in each outcome.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe. Or even just corrupting it at the end. I would rather it fracture, but
Yeah, I think we all rather have it fractured. But
Well, I don't mean like actually fracture, but I mean like that same sort of principle. Like each
Yeah.
time it gets locked in, and you have less and less control over
Mhm.
what you
yeah,
can.
yeah.
Mm.
I got so excited my little hair bun just got real messed up.
I want to say one other thing, right? There are 26 letters in the English alphabet, and we have had 11 that haven't been the start of a league title, and many that have been
Excuse me?
reused. And this is the first
Who
time.
has
So
done
now
this
we're going to go down
math?
to 10 because no one has had a U league before. I'm so fucking
Hold
hyped
on.
for a U league.
What are the rest of the
I'm not
letters?
following.
I wrote it
Zeds?
down, but I don't have it on me right now. But
That's
if you
fine. That's fine. Do you have any letter in your mind? X's? No, we probably had an X. Do we have
No,
an
we
X?
haven't. We haven't had X.
Q,
Mm-mm.
Do we have a B?
Zoffly.
betrayal.
We have so many
That's
B's.
Fire.
Oh yeah, betrayal.
We have
T,
A,
we
we
have
have
that,
B,
right?
we don't have C, I don't think.
Should
I
we
don't
keep
think there's ever
going?
been a C.
We
And
had
no P, right?
No, we had prophecy.
Prophecy. Fuck me.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
have both or pyres. I'm done.
F,
F.
fuck everything league. Yep.
Prophecy.
It's the one right before PoE too.
So happy I didn't get that drink in my mouth before I heard
Maybe
that.
there will never be a
don't
league
think we've
because
had
F
F.
in the chat, yo. Like maybe there will never be an F league because hey, F for respect.
I mean, wasn't when they added that battle royale? Wasn't that an F league for like a week?
I really want there to be something from April 1st, but
think
I
that's-
don't think there will be.
All I want for April 1st is for it to drop mirrors, but it's actually wisdom scrolls in disguise.
That's evil.
I know. I never said I was good. Okay.
Everybody would run for random signets. Just dropping crystal scrolls everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Swing sound on the loot filter. Oh
Those
god.
days, you're all excited, but you keep getting deflated because it's just actually wisdom scrolls. It completely screws with your reward centers for
Imagine the league after. Everyone's
Oh.
excited looking at every wisdom scroll because it's imprinted in your muscle memory. Oh, wisdom scroll. Oh, never mind.
Triple G. Do you hear this
Ugh.
great idea we have to make
No,
people
no.
hype about wisdom scrolls?
It's a terrible idea. I think it's just the worst. After Close Your Eyes and Exalt, there's just no competition.
Listen, Close Your Eyes and Exalt is very exciting if you liked slots. Okay.
So I
It's
know I
very
have very very too many ideas about Ultimatum. Anybody else have speculations?
Yeah.
Tell us
BK?
Oh, I already said.
more.
Yeah, other people.
I was
I'm just
expecting some sort of corruption league. Like it would be like, but it also felt weird because we already have double corruption from incursions,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
what could they do to step that up? A triple corruption? Oh, that's new. I mean, like, yeah, I don't think so. But like, it somehow to me it feels like the ultimatum is kind of imprinted in the world, in the community or in society,
Mm.
to be often interpreted to being you have to do this and you can't have the other, and is mostly negatively impacted, which forces you into a decision making of if you take one you can't have the other, right? That's how it is, and it's often negatively impacted, which is not necessarily what we will see. But I think that it will be reward structure, because I'm not sure they're going to do a crafting league after we had Harvest. It would be weird, but it would also be very fitting to have a crafting league to ease up on the spammage and hatred that's
Yeah.
surrounding Harvest nerfs, right? So it would be ideal to see it as a crafting league. I don't think it is though. I really don't, because I think that when they did Harvest, they were like, "We're done with crafting. We're moving on to the next topic." Prior to all of this happening,
Yeah.
and I think that instead of seeing that, we're instead looking at the possibility of different aspects of approaching itemization rewards. For example, you can choose a box with caster gear, or you can choose the box with physical gear. And as you open that up, you get to choose the itemization from there, because the itemization structure or reward structure of Ritual was very welcome, because you could choose to get, hey, I want alterations, let's just take all the shit, or I don't, because it's just trash. Instead of dropping 50 items on the ground and you go like, nothing's worth looting, go away. And that's basically a problem which continues to go into the whole idea of future-proofing the game, where a lot of the stuff is neglected because it's not worth looking at. And introducing new ways of itemizations or structures to itemization drops or rewards in a deterministic way, where you get to choose your reward in a better way. And I think I believe that will be the structure of Ultimatum, that they're introducing another way of choosing your reward that is a little bit more deterministic than we've seen before, to
Giving
avoid
players more control.
the trash. Yeah, exactly. To avoid the spammage of things.
Oh,
And
the
I
illusion
don't
of
think it is a
control.
crafted league, but I like the idea.
Brittleknee, do you have any theories?
I am excited to learn more about Val stuff, because it seems so isolated for so long, and even like Incursion League didn't really teach me anything. It just sort of made me more curious. So maybe we have expansion of Val lore and we can understand it more. But at the end of the day, like, my answer is pretty much like copy paste from any single time that people ask us, "Are you excited about the league? Are you excited about the league?" It's like, man, I just like Path of Exile. I'm here for Path of Exile. I'm getting more Path of Exile. I am excited. I genuinely love playing this game, and I like the new iterations and takes on everything, and I like how dynamically it changes each time. I'm here for it.
Yeah,
If we
I
to
can relate.
learn more cool shit, then awesome, man. I'm down.
People loved PoE before Harvest. I'm sure people
Did
will love it after
they?
Harvest.
Same.
Yeah, true. That's true.
And I think most of us were kind of surprised to see it come back at all.
Same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We
Yeah.
had long discussions about if they were going to bring it back and what that would look like, and none of it was just, it's going to be back.
Yeah, period.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a 10,
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
craft limit. No one fucking saw that one coming.
No.
Well,
I feel like the 10 craft limit is so much better than just like the TFT aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah.
I understand what they were thinking with that in terms of limiting the abilities of
Yeah.
Harvest, but I just don't think that it did what they thought. They were like, oh, well, this will discourage trading because you'll just save all the ones that apply to you. And it's like, no, you don't understand.
No.
We need
We're gonna
we
find
need
a
to
way.
try that type of craft like a couple times. It doesn't just hit every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
trust
no, it
me,
doesn't
I
work.
found that.
They need
So
to
many
understand
exalts
how
spent on
obsessive we
remove
are.
ad influence. Oh my god.
We're
Um,
obsessive players, right? Like, everybody can agree we're kind of obsessive, which
Yeah.
makes us enjoy the game a lot.
Yeah, Vel, we're all obsessed.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of are like when we think about it. Okay, I have this necklace I've been working on for a month now, but I expect to finish it.
That's true. I do have
You
the
know,
false belief that if I start a crafting project and I know what I need to do to finish it, that I will finish it. And that has
yeah,
not always been the case.
No.
yeah, but we want to believe
So
it's gonna happen.
I feel like we've
Yeah.
definitely hit pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about in the course of the podcast. I might end on this note. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to watch on stream. Thank you to Noodle, Velyna, Brittany, recurring host, but thank you especially to Ghazzy for joining us for this episode and offering a perspective. It's been wonderful having you as a guest. And we will be back in 2 weeks because we will have the new league announcement during that week, and we'll do a sum up on that. We'll confirm the times and stuff. It should be our regular time-ish, date-ish, like around now. If you listened all the way through or watched all the way through, please make sure to like, comment. If you didn't, you could have totally commented like a while ago, and that's fine. Anyways, thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I guess we got you hook, line, and sinker, and we'll see you next time.